Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 3 of What If Naruto Was Reborn with all his memories. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. The Mizukage of Kurigakure idly rattled her fingers against her desk. A large pile of papers that needed her signature were placed on top of the table in front of her. Kiri didn't have diplomatic ties to any other villages or a very sizable council like the others did, so oftentimes there wasn't a lot of paperwork to attend to. But when there was, Mei Terumi, the Godime Mizukage, let out a deep sigh of boredom. If only she could find some way to distract herself. Anything to get away from the dreaded paperwork. Her prayer was answered when a small knock came from her door. Mizukage-sama, may I come in? Mei smiled, immediately recognizing the voice. Come in, Ao. Her good friend and bodyguard entered the room. Ao was a middle-aged man in a green robe with an eye patch. Only Mei and a few others knew that a Byakugan eye was hidden underneath the patch. He had some pretty fun and interesting stories to tell at times, but most knew not to get him going on that. Got anything interesting to tell me? Mei asked, trying to mask her hopeful tone. Being the leader of the village had its perks, but it didn't mean that she never got bored. Listening to reports kept her somewhat entertained. Yes, I just thought I'd bring something to your attention. Ao smiled, bringing out a sheet of paper. His eye scanned it over as he read it aloud. A day ago, a group of returning hunter nin recovered about a dozen bodies along the river border. This ninja were part of our border patrol, as you can guess. It would appear that another of our ninja went rouge. This isn't news, Ao, Mei said, crossing her arms as she leaned back in her chair. Still wearing a smile, she gave him a dismissive wave. Kiri is known for having an abundance of missing nin. Just send out some hunter nin to see if they can capture him or get a name on who escaped. Mizukage-sama, that is only the beginning of my report, Ao said. This made Mei raise her eyebrows in mild curiosity. Oh. Yes. A few hours after the news of our dead patrol ninja reached us, another report had already been submitted. Ao continued. According to the report, a group of our ninja out on a mission had been killed a few miles from the border. So then our Rouge ninja must have run into them on his way out and killed them too. Again, this isn't news. Mei smiled, not seeing the importance of such a common report. Mizukage-sama, please listen until I finish the report, Ao said, a little impatiently. Mei smiled and gestured for him to continue. The veteran Mist Nin cleared his throat and read the rest of the report. Some of our men had gone over these reports and reported it to me. It was then I realized that the border patrol guards had been killed before the group of Mist Nin had been done in. Mei frowned at this. Before, Mei thought, wondering why the thought bothered her so much. At first we thought that a different Rouge Nin had killed our group of our returning ninja, but about 5 hours after receiving the report, another was turned in. The information stated that another group of hunter nin had been killed in the Midlands. A few hours later, I would receive 2 more reports detailing the finding of 2 more units of slaughtered hunter nin. Ao lifted his eye from the report, giving Mei a hard look. I realized what was so peculiar about this was that the latest group to be killed was only miles away from the village. Each killing suggests that this Rouge Nin is coming closer and closer to the village. They're coming to the village? Mei asked in mild shock. A smile made its way onto her face. About half of the Rouge ninja running across the world came from their village. They had all worked hard to escape from Kurigakure. However, from what Ao was saying, this Rouge Nin was different. Are you trying to tell me that this Rouge Nin is trying to get inside of the village? That is exactly what I'm saying. Ao nodded. I thought nothing of it at first. Our ninja are capable, and I had expected the killings to cease when this ninja would run into our stronger hunter nin. However, the only bodies that have been turned in are of our own men, and the latest report places this man dangerously close to the village. The details of these killing also suggest that this Rouge Nin is not alone. What are the details then? Mei asked, leaning forward in her chair. Most of the bodies have deep gashes and severed limbs, and some were even cut clean in half. We can infer that someone in the group uses a large sword or something similar that can cut through bodies with ease. There are bodies with wounds that suggest there is another sword user, only these bodies had more precise, shallow cuts aimed at vital points, implying that a smaller weapon was used. Other bodies had Senbon needles sticking out of them. All had been killed with multiple strikes or taken out immediately with accurate strikes to the neck or chest. Other bodies had more common wounds. Broken bones, snapped necks, shuriken or kunai embedded in a torso or two. Common killing techniques used by a fighter with no defining techniques, but still just as dangerous. So how big a group do you think it is? At least 3 people, but no more than 6. Ao said, putting away the paper. Even I find that pretty surprising. They must be quite the group to get here so quickly. Mei said, an excited smile forming on her lips. Regardless of their skills or what reason they would have for trying to get to the village, they have killed our men and shall be dealt proper punishment. Ao said, narrowing his one eye. With your permission, I'll mobilize a small team and take care of this myself. Ao was surprised to see the cheerful smile plastered on the Mizukage's face. He was even more surprised by her response to the report. Don't bother, Mei smiled, turning to look out the window that gave her a perfect view of the entire village. Just let the group go for now. Mizukage-sama, I would strongly advise against that. Ao sighed. He couldn't believe how casually Mei took some things. The fact that this group has made it so far into our lands calls for more drastic action. That's what makes it so exciting. Mei replied with a beautiful smile on her face. Ao, when was the last time someone tried to get into Kurigakure? I don't think anyone was stupid enough to try. The man responded. That's just it. This group must have some sort of agenda if they're coming here. Plus, it's been so long since something this exciting happened. Mei smiled. This isn't a game, you know. Ao said sternly, almost sounding like he was scolding her. Fine, if you're that worried about it, get the 7 ninja swordsmen to guard the village. I'm sure they could use some excitement as well. Mei pouted. You mean the 3 ninja swordsmen? Ao sighed. Mei raised her eyebrows. 3, I thought there were still 4 members left. I told you, Raiga went rouge 3 months ago. How could you keep forgetting that? The veteran ninja said, clearly annoyed with her attitude towards the issue. Well, I'm sure they'll be enough. We should really think about getting more members soon though. The Mizukage added as an afterthought. She turned back towards Ao. I'm curious to see how far this group will go. If they get past our men and the 3 swordsmen, I'll take care of them myself. Ao sighed, knowing that there was no way he could convince Mei to change her mind. Well, he figured he didn't have to worry too much. After all, there was no way the group would ever make it to the village alive. XXXXX. Jump. Naruto jumped in the air, easily avoiding the hunter nin's sword aimed at his legs. He quickly threw the shuriken he had been holding in his hand, embedding it into his attacker's chest. He immediately summoned 2 clones to intercept the other 2 ninja trying to flank him. The clones crouched and delivered quick, precise strikes to their attackers' upper chests with the kunai they held in their hands. Both ninja fell at Naruto's feet. Naruto allowed a small smile to come to his face as he sidestepped to dodge the senbon being thrown his way. He retaliated by hurling a few shuriken at his attacker. It's slowly coming back to me. Naruto smiled, ducking to avoid a sword sweep aimed to cut off his head. Sparring and practice with his friends was great, but it hardly substituted for real-time combat. There were almost no risks, no danger to a friendly spar. Nothing forced him to feel on edge. In a real fight, his instincts for battle had been reawakened. Up until now, Naruto had never engaged in any real fighting. Barring his fight with Zabuza, these battles with Kurigakure Hunter Nin were just what he needed to get some of his skill back. I think that's all of them, Zabuza announced, kicking the body of a mist nin off his sword. Under his bandages he wore a smile of sadistic mirth. This is the 6th group we've run into, Naruto remarked, a little put off by the fact. Other ninja are bound to notice. Kiri seems to have more active ninja than I remember. I'm also surprised that we've run into so many enemies. Zabuza commented, lifting his sword onto his shoulder. Guess they enforce quantity over quality now. If they had kept the old system of pitting academy graduates against each other, they could get rid of the weaklings easy. Naruto grimaced at this. He was well aware of Kiri's old system and how Zabuza had killed an entire graduating class to become a ninja. After the incident, the practice had ceased. We can assume that Kiri is aware that we are trying to get inside the village. Haku stated, retrieving her senbon from a ninja's neck. There is no way all these killings have gone unnoticed. We should arrive at the village in an hour, yes. Yujiro asked, sheathing her sword only after she wiped the blood from it. What are your plans for sneaking in? We'll stay hidden and wait until dark. Coupled with the thick fog that the village is usually plagued with, it'll make for good cover. Zabuza smiled. He turned his attention to Naruto. We'll sneak into the Mizukage's building and have that meeting you wanted. What will you do? Naruto asked, picking up a kunai from the ground. Unlike me, you're a missing ninja. All I needed was for you to get me to the village. If you stay with me, there's a chance you and Haku would be captured. I'd like to see them try. Zabuza laughed, almost as if he looked forward to the prospect. If the ninja in the village are anything like the ninja we've encountered so far, then I've got nothing to worry about. Besides, I'd like to meet the Mizukage too. I wonder if I'll have any luck taking over the village this time around. Naruto sighed, shaking his head at Zabuza's attitude. He looked around the vicinity, eyeing the dead bodies that littered the place. You said there was a way for us to get in undetected, but, Naruto trailed off, arching an eyebrow at the ex-Mist Nin. Hey, like I said, there are more ninja than I thought there'd be. Still, we only ran into a couple more groups than expected. Zabuza said offhandedly, if we had taken the straight route instead of dodging trails and not sticking to the heavy forest areas, we would have had to kill a lot more people. While that option would have been more fun, it would have caused more alarm at Kurigakure. Naruto rolled his eyes at the comment. Lots of dangerous ninja are walking around inside Kiri, and thusly, getting detected by Hunter Nin was inevitable. The village was always paranoid. Zabuza smiled, raising a finger. My plan was to get as close to Kiri as possible without alerting the village itself. If we had killed more than 10 groups of ninja, we would already be dealing with a larger, more skilled force sent to take us out. Right now they're aware of our close proximity to the village, but they don't consider us a big enough threat to send out people who are actually competent. They underestimate us, which is exactly what I wanted. It leaves Kiri open to a surprise attack. You're not going to involve citizens, are you? Naruto asked uneasily. Nah, they've got no quarrel with us. Zabuza shook his head. We have to keep this as quiet as possible if we're gonna sneak in to see the Mizukage. We're doing a good job so far. Naruto muttered sarcastically. Better job than you think, kid. Trust me, Zabuza retorted. Zabuza-san, we should move on. Haku interrupted the duo's banter. The longer we stay here, the chance of us running into another group is increased. Got it, Zabuza nodded. He shot Naruto a serious look. I hope you rehearsed what you're gonna say to the Mizukage, kid. You won't get off easy for sneaking into the village and killing its ninja without a good reason. Why yeah. Naruto gave an uneasy chuckle. A reassuring hand on his shoulder immediately calmed his nerves. He turned his head and smiled at Yujiro. Everything will be all right, Naruto-sama. Yujiro gave him a comforting smile. Naruto grinned. He was still unsure, but hearing her say it gave him a whole lot more confidence than the current situation warranted. XXXXX. We're here. Zabuza's announcement didn't mean they were inside the village, but their group was at a point where they could launch their infiltration plan. Naruto could see the village walls in the distance. Night was almost upon them and the fog was thick around them. I never thought that my second attack on Kurigakure would turn out like this. Zabuza commented, turning around and giving the group a wry smile under his bandaged mask. Didn't think it would turn into an infiltration mission either. Well, the unexpected does tend to happen a lot, Naruto replied, smiling at the man. Especially around me. I'll bet, Zabuza chuckled. Naruto and Yujiro laughed along with him while Haku just stood next to them with an expressionless face, but at the same time wondering what the hell was so funny. Zabuza-san, how do you plan to get us in? Haku asked, breaking through the trio's revelry. Classic infiltration technique for me. Zabuza replied, I'll use my Kurigakure no jutsu to cast a heavy fog around us. It should keep us hidden and undetected as we sneak into Kiri. The Mizukage's building is on the southwest side of the village, so we'll go in from there. Is anyone going to have any problems getting over that wall? There was no reply from any of them. Zabuza smiled. Good, let's get a move on then. The trio of teens nodded and followed after Zabuza as they dashed through the forest. The swordsman immediately cast his jutsu. A heavy fog settled in around them, keeping them from seeing more than 3 feet ahead of them. Naruto, Haku, and Yujiro just followed the man's silhouette, knowing he would lead them to the village wall in no time. As Naruto moved through the forest, he noticed that his clothes suddenly felt damp and the moisture on his face had increased. He wiped the water off his brow as they continued through the forest. Naruto grunted with disdain as he felt his pant legs getting wet as he stepped into puddles that had suddenly appeared on the ground. Where did all this water come from all of a sudden? Naruto muttered to himself. Then again, it was Kurigakure. The village and the ninja were known for their water affinities, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise if the terrain was a little. Stop. Zabuza's sudden command made Naruto halt in his tracks. He noticed Zabuza, Haku, and Yujiro had all stopped moving. He suddenly felt Yujiro grab his wrist. Through the mist, he could see Yuzora's fox ears twitching under her bandana. Someone is here, Yujiro whispered, stepping close enough to Naruto where he could discern her features. Naruto was about to voice his concern when Zabuza's voice of alarm blasted in his eardrums. "Get down!" Naruto saw Zabuza grab Haku and pull her down to the ground just as Yuzura did the same to him. As he was brought down to the ground, Naruto felt something cut through the air above them. When it passed, a large crash sounded behind them. Naruto quickly jumped to his feet and turned around as the fog around them became less dense. His eyes widened when he saw the trees behind them had been sliced in half from the middle of their trunks. The ruined branches and wood were soaked with water. "What the hell?" Naruto breathed. "Naruto-sama." Yuzura's voice snapped him back to attention. The girl pointed in front of her. "Look." Naruto turned away from the wreckage to see someone step into the clearing. Zabuza and Haku also had their attention on the newcomer. He looked young, maybe in his early 20s, with short, spiky brown hair. He had a few scars on his forehead and wore the traditional mist ninja garbs, though the sleeves were cut off, revealing many more scars along his arms. The mist ninja headband was presented on his forehead. He regarded Naruto and his group with a cold stare. Well, Zabuza chuckled. "Didn't expect one of the 7 ninja swordsmen to come after us. I'm flattered." It was only after Zabuza said this did Naruto notice the large sword the man dragged behind him. It wasn't as large as Zabuza's, but it was great in size. Naruto took note that the sword's edges were blunt, and it didn't look like the sword was made for cutting. He also noticed that a few holes were on the blade with water leaking out of them. The blade was also rather wide and curved. "That's the Mizu no Setsudenki you've got there." Zabuza smirked, pointing to the wide blade. "It's proof you're one of the swordsmen of the mist. Although, I don't remember seeing you among our ranks when I was a ninja of this village. I was promoted to the rank of ninja swordsman a little over a year ago and given this sword to wield as a weapon." The man replied, placing the blade in front of him. "I wouldn't expect you to know of me, Zabuza Momochi, demon of the hidden mist." "I'm glad so many people still know of me." Zabuza smiled, lifting his sword off his shoulder. "Kisame was the last swordsman I crossed blades with. I'm looking forward to see how well you can wield that sword." "Let's go then," the man shouted, raising the Setsudenki over his head. Naruto watched as the water leaking out of the blade's holes was immediately sucked in. Water rose up from the ground and was sucked into the holes, even the moisture and air around him was being eaten by the sword. "Zabuza-san, what is special about the sword he is using?" Haku asked, beating Naruto to it. "The Setsudenki is a little fatter and wider than most blades, but skinnier than Kisami's Samahata. The inside of it is hollow and holds water inside," Zabuza answered as they watched their opponent suck up the water around him with his sword. "It has the ability to channel the water inside, and can pressurize the water around it. It can form projectiles or increase the strength of certain jutsu using the water it takes in. To make use of these abilities, the user has to have a wind affinity and be skilled in water techniques. And based on what this guy's doing. Sweden. Teppadama." The Setsudenki wielder shouted as he swung his blade forward. A huge burst of water shot out from the blade, accelerating towards the group with alarming speed. Everyone hopped out of the way to avoid the blast. Naruto was surprised to see such a big blast of water generated from the sword. It was almost as big as the bullets Gamabunta could use. "He can wield the blade pretty well." Zabuza finished. He lifted his sword and rushed towards the other swordsman. The demon of the hidden mist let out a challenging battle cry. "Let's see if you can take me on." Zabuza took a large sweep at the man, aiming at hit midsection. The man jumped in the air, taking his blade up with him and avoiding Zabuza's sword. He lifted his blade high over his head and brought us down as he descended back to the ground, trying to bring it down on Zabuza's head. The demon of the hidden mist immediately jumped back to avoid the strike, causing the blade to crash into the ground, leaving a crater impression when the blade smashed down where he had been standing a moment before. "So the blade can't cut, but you'd be crushed to death if it hit you," Naruto muttered, seeing the Setsudenki as some kind of sword-like club. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he was reminded of when he fought against Zabuza in his old life for the first time. He could do nothing but watch when Kakashi and the ex-mist ninja had duked it out on top of the lake. He had been too weak to do anything but free Kakashi from the water prison, and even then he needed Sasuke's help to do so. The Jinchuriki formed a few hand signs for his favorite jutsu while Yuzura drew her sword and Haku took out a few Senbon needles. Naruto summoned 3 clones next to him. He wasn't as helpless as he was before in his past life. "Rush him," Naruto shouted. He and his clones all drew some kunai and ran towards the Setsudenki swordsman. Yujiro trailed after them while Haku took aim with her Senbon needles. Zabuza also rushed towards the man when he saw their tactic. Surely their opponent wouldn't be able to avoid or block them all. The Setsudenki wielder smiled. This wasn't the first time such a tactic had been used against him. They thought just because he was one man holding a heavy sword he couldn't avoid all their attacks. Of course, he didn't have to. He dug the tip of his sword into the ground and placed his palm on the flat side of the blade. Zabuza brought his sword back. Yujiro was poised to strike. The Narutos were closing in and Haku just let her Senbon needles fly. Repel. Air and water blasted out from the holes of the Mizu no Setsudenki, blowing away Zabuza, Naruto, Yujiro, and Haku Senbon right before they hit him. Zabuza flipped backwards and righted himself as he glared at his opponent. Shit, I forgot that the Setsudenki can create strong wind currents inside it using the wielder's chakra to ward off physical attacks. Zabuza muttered. Surrounding the man was out of the question. That didn't mean he couldn't try powering through him. Zabuza swung his sword forward, delivering quicking strikes towards his enemy. More air blasted out of the holes, changing the direction of each strike so the sword swung to the side and kept missing its target. Zabuza got more and more frustrated as each of his attacks was repelled and easily dodged by his opponent, who held his sword in front of him like a shield. Damn it, Zabuza cursed, bringing his sword up and swinging it back down as hard as he could on the man's head. The Setsudenki swordsman took his blade out of the ground and raised it to block Zabuza's strike. The harsh sound of metal meeting metal tore through the area around them as the blades met. Zabuza pushed down as hard as he could, trying to overpower his opponent. Sweat broke out on the Setsudenki swordsman's forehead as he tried and failed to push Zabuza back. The demon of the hidden mist smirked down at the man who was struggling to hold back his sword. When it comes to strength, the Setsudenki can't beat my Kubikiri Hako. Zabuza grinned. Don't underestimate me, the man replied, glaring at Zabuza. I've got you right where I want you. Zabuza's eyes widened when he saw the man smirk. Repel. Zabuza cursed when he and his sword were blown upwards when a strong air blast came from the sword. The demon of the mist's eyes widened when he noticed his front was vulnerable. The Setsudenki swordsman smiled and threw Senbon needles at Zabuza's open chest, aiming for his vitals. Zabuza-san. Haku immediately drew more Senbon needles from her pouch and let them fly, intercepting most of the Senbon that were thrown at him and stopping their trajectory. However, a few needles avoided her own and embedded themselves in Zabuza's chest. They didn't hit any vitals, but that didn't mean they didn't do any damage. Sweden. Teppadama. Haku watched as the Setsudenki wielder shot more concentrated balls of water at her master. While Zabuza was able to ignore the pain in his chest and recover fast enough to bring his sword up to block the attacks, the force of the water blast was enough to send him flying back into a tree. She made a move to go after him, but the enemy swordsman turned his attention towards her. I won't let you do that, the Setsudenki wielder shouted as he brought his blade down. Sweden. Mizu Kamikiri. Haku's eyes widened as a jet of running water shot out of the blade and tore through the ground, aiming directly at her at an alarming pace. She jumped in air, avoiding the torrent of water as it sliced through the ground beneath her and crashed into the trees behind them. Unfortunately, Haku didn't expect him to fire off another attack so readily. Sweden. Teppadama. The girl could do nothing to avoid the water bullet that shot towards her. Haku cursed her carelessness, knowing she couldn't dodge them in midair. She closed her eyes and crossed her arms in front of her like a shield, waiting for the water to crash into her. Watch out. Haku felt herself be pushed out of the way just as the bullet was about to hit her. She opened her eyes just in time to see the Naruto clone that had pushed her out of harm's way poof out of existence as he took the attack meant for her. She saw another clone on the ground to catch her. Gotcha. The Naruto clone grinned as he caught Haku bridal style and stopped her descent. Haku gave the clone a warm smile. Thank you, clone-san. Haku smiled gratefully at him. The Setsudenki swordsman would have stopped the moment with another water bullet if he hadn't noticed something orange in the corner of his vision. He quickly brought his sword around to block the attack. Repel. Yuzora's Kodachi was warded off just as it was about to cut into his abdomen. Haku, I want you to help Yujiro distract that swordsman, the clone told her as they watched Yujiro engage the mist ninja. The real me has an idea to keep him from using wind to repel his attacks. That's all I need to know then. Haku smiled as she slipped her arm around the clone and took a kunai out of his pouch. He slowly placed her on the ground. Don't take too long. Promise. The clone smiled, giving her a quick salute before poofing out of existence. The Setsudenki swordsman grunted in annoyance when the kimono girl's attacks didn't let up. He had been releasing small bursts of air to repel her attacks like he had done Zabuza's sword, but hers was smaller and quicker so she could recover. He made a move to use his repelling technique but stopped short just in time to shoot an air blast to blow away some senbons that were flying towards him. He glared at the pretty girl who was smiling at him. Yuzura-chan, it seems he can only repel things in a wide area if his blade is stationary. Haku smiled as she took out more senbon needles from her pouch. I noticed that too, Haku-chan. Yuzura smiled as she kept striking with her sword. He can only use small blasts of air when moving. We should use this to our advantage. We already are. The mist swordsman let out an exasperated sigh as he listened to the girls. Hearing them have a casual conversation in the middle of battle sounded so weird. And a little insulting to him as well. He had to increase his defense as senbon hailed on him while he tried to dodge a flurry of sword strikes as well. The Setsudenki wielder alternated between using his air blasts to repel the senbon to repelling the sword strokes, but he had to try dodging the attacks that weren't being repelled. He grit his teeth together as the attacks were getting more difficult to dodge. Then suddenly, the attacks stopped. The swordsman blinked when he saw his attackers hop away from him. They had him on the retreat, so why would they stop attacking? His eyes widened when he felt a spike in chakra behind him and hear something burst from the bushes. The Setsudenki wielder gasped when he saw the blonde kid rushing towards him with a spinning ball of chakra in one of his hands. He knew that thing would cause some damage if he didn't repel it. With the girls not attacking him, he could use his wide-range repelling technique. He slammed his sword into the ground as the boy got closer. Repel. Air blasted towards his attacker. The mist ninja smiled as he waited for the boy to be blown away. To his shock, the air shot at him twisted and spun around the ball he was holding, neutralizing his blowback technique. Naruto smirked at the man's shock. You're not the only one with an affinity for wind. Naruto grinned as he aimed his Rasengan at the man's chest. Shit, the Setsudenki wielder cursed as he brought his sword back up to block the attack. Naruto slammed the ball into the sword just as he created another air blast, hoping to neutralize the blonde's attack. Wind release. Rasengan. Naruto shouted as he slammed his wind chakra-enhanced Rasengan into his opponent's sword. The force of air and power created from both attacks sent both of them flying back and the Setsudenki out of the mist ninja's hands. The man immediately recovered and made a break for his sword which landed only a few feet away. You're open. The swordsman's eyes widened when he heard Zabuza's low chuckle. He cried out and collapsed to the ground when the demon of the mist sliced at him, taking out half of his midsection. Naruto-sama, are you okay? Yuzura asked, rushing over to where the boy had landed. Yeah, a little sore, but relatively okay. Naruto smiled as he got to his feet. He watched as Haku walked over to Zabuza to see if he was okay. How are you, Zabuza-san? Haku asked worriedly as she watched him pull out the needles embedded in his chest. TCH, don't get so worked up. These are just scratches. Zabuza grunted as he discarded the bloody needles. He slowly made his way over to the fallen ninja swordsman. Hey, you still alive? Not for long. The man grunted, coughing up a bit of blood. You were as ferocious as I'd heard, Zabuza-senpai. You put up a good fight. Zabuza nodded at him respectfully. I don't know if I would have won if these guys weren't here to help me. He gestured to Haku, Naruto and Yuzura. Didn't think I'd get taken out like this though. Bummer. The man chuckled. A happy smile made its way onto his face. But you're right, it was a good fight. The rush and thrill you get from a battle. That's what I live for. What's your name? Zabuza asked. Tanma Ushio, current of the hidden mist. Tanma smiled. It was a great fight, Zabuza-senpai. Great fight. Zabuza watched as the light faded from the man's eyes. The demon of the mist bent down and closed Tanma's eyes. You won't be forgiven for that one. Naruto commented as he watched Zabuza stand up. You still sure you want to see the Mizukage with me? Don't try to change my mind. Zabuza said, turning and giving the boy a wide smile. If Tanma here could put up this much of a fight, I can't wait to see what the current Mizukage can do. Naruto just shook his head, a small smile on his lips. Do you think anyone noticed us? Yuzura asked. They will if we stay here. Haku answered, turning to the girl. We should move on. Yep, Zabuza nodded, lifting his sword back onto his shoulder. He turned his head towards Naruto. You ready to see the Mizukage, kid? Naruto nodded. Let's go. XXXXX. Mizukage-sama. Mei raised her head when she heard a knock on her door and her title. "Ow, come in." The veteran ninja stepped inside her office, holding a small scroll in his hand and a piece of paper in the other. The man had a grim look on his face as he approached her desk. "What's with that look?" Mei asked, arching an eyebrow at him. "You just get done scolding Chojuro or something." "This was turned in 10 minutes ago," Ao said grimly, stepping back and unfolding the scroll he held in his hands. He made a hand sign so the carrier scroll would empty its contents in front of him. Mei's eyes widened in shock when she saw the Mizu no Setsudenki poof into existence and drop to the ground. She quickly sat up from her chair. "Ow, what the hell is this? What happened to Tanma?" Mei exclaimed, staring down at the large weapon. "His body was turned in the same time the sword was," Ao replied, placing the piece of paper he was holding on her desk. "This report details everything. It looks like letting that group who has been killing our men run around wasn't the best idea." He glanced down at the Setsudenki. "Still, to be able to take out Tanma, they must be pretty strong." Mei finished, her shocked expression being replaced with one of excited glee. "He must have died with a smile on his face. I didn't think they could take out one of the swordsmen." "Neither did I, but that was a mistake we have to learn from." Ao sighed. "I've already reported this to Ryoichi and Chojuro. They're making a sweep through the village. We can assume that the group that killed Tanma has made it in." "Well, I guess we really dropped the ball on this one." Mei smiled. She sighed when Ao glared at her. Yeah, have there been any civilian casualties?" No yet," Ao muttered, "but I think that when we find them we should." A large crash sounded below them and shook the building. Mei and Ao exchanged surprised looks. "You don't think that was?" Ao whispered. "Well, I'll be damned." Mei smiled, leaning back in her chair. They got in. The door to the Mizukage's office burst open as 4 people ran inside. A girl wearing hunter ninja garbs erected an ice wall at the door, preventing anyone from getting in. Mei also noticed a blonde kid and a white-haired girl in an orange kimono with worried looks on their faces next to her. The blonde turned to glare at the last person, a tall man with short hair with bandages covering his face who wielded a giant sword covered in blood. Mei's eyes widened when she saw the man. If his appearance didn't give him away, the sword sure did. "Zabuza," Mei whispered with a smile. "Get in undetected," were the words you used. The blonde said angrily, rounding on the man. "What the hell was that? What, you didn't think there was a way to sneak into the Mizukage's office without getting caught, did you?" Zabuza asked, dismissing the boy's complaint. Getting into the village and breaking into the cage's building are 2 entirely different things. "My crystal ice walls should keep anyone from getting in," the girl in mist ninja garb announced. "It's a good thing I conserved my chakra when we fought Tanma." "I'm surprised that you were able to produce so much ice," the girl in the kimono commented. "Haku-chan is very skilled." "Thank you, Yujiro-chan." Haku smiled. Ahem. The group of 4 turned when their attention was subtly asked for. Ao glared at the group with his one eye while Mei just smiled brightly at them. Naruto glanced at Zabuza when he noticed the man smirk beneath his mask. "Zabuza?" Naruto asked. "Well, holy shit," Zabuza chuckled, shaking his head. "Mei, is that you?" "Zabuza-chan." Mei smiled, surprising Naruto and Haku with the suffix. "It's so good to see you." "You're the Mizukage." Zabuza laughed. "They picked you after Yagura kicked the can." Zabuza had Naruto's memories, but he still hadn't sorted through every memory yet. Mei being the Mizukage wasn't one of the memories he had gotten to, so this came as a bit of a surprise to him. "Jealous," Mei smirked, leaning forward and placing her chin on her hands. "If it makes you feel any better, I wasn't actually picked for the job. There were lots of other candidates, but I proved I was the strongest." "I guess you did." Zabuza smirked back at her. "Though, your strength was never an issue. I always knew you were strong. You sure know how to sweet-talk a girl." Mei giggled, her eyes scanning over his figure. "It's good to see you haven't changed too much." "I could say the same to you." Zabuza smirked, also giving her a look over. Naruto watched this exchange with a mixed expression. Are they undressing each other with their eyes or something? Naruto thought as he watched them give each other predatory looks. Even though Naruto knew Mei from his past life, he didn't know she had connections with Zabuza. Or at least that's what it seemed like. Naruto glanced at Haku and Yujiro to see how they felt about this scene. Both looked surprised by the duo's conversation, though Yujiro looked more amused than Haku did. The mist girl had an expression of mild surprise. "Zabuza-san, you know her." Haku asked curiously. Oh yeah, Mei and I go way back. Zabuza smiled, chuckling as old memories came back to him. We were both part of the 7 ninja swordsman group when I was a ninja for the village. You know, when I saw Tanma with the Setsudenki, I thought you had died. That was the sword you used in battle, wasn't it? Becoming the Mizukage meant I had to make some sacrifices. Mei sighed. Unfortunately, it included giving up my position among the swordsmen and giving up the blade. After a few years Tanma showed up and used the Setsudenki pretty well, so I passed it on to him. I couldn't even go on missions anymore. That's a shame. It is, isn't it? Mizukage-sama. Ao's sharp voice cut through their friendly chatter. Everyone in the room turned their attention towards him. These people have infiltrated our village and killed our men. Ao said darkly, glaring at the group. This is no time for a reunion with an old partner of yours. That's right, Mei sighed, suddenly turning serious. Zabuza, you and your friends are guilty of attacks on our ninja and killing our men. This is an aggressive action that cannot be forgiven. Hell, that killed the mood. Zabuza grumbled. We do have a reason for coming here. If it's you, I'm sure it had something to do with taking the position of Mizukage for yourself. Mei said seriously. You didn't come here to have a friendly chat, I'm sure. Actually, that's exactly why we're here. Zabuza countered, surprising both her and Ao with his answer. Though, it's not really me who wants to chat with you. He pointed to the blonde kid. It's this guy who needs to speak with you. Don't mock us, Ao snapped. Infiltrate our lands, kill our men, kill Tanma, and this is your reason. You think this child has something so important to tell the Mizukage that it required such drastic actions. Indeed, this is no time for jokes, Zabuza. Mei agreed, not believing what he was saying. There was no way he'd come back to Kurigakure just to let some kid talk to her. Sorry, but that's the truth. Zabuza shrugged. Isn't that right, Naruto? It is. Naruto nodded, finally speaking and stepping forward. He felt determined and confident, and he really hoped that it showed. I have something urgent to tell you, Mizukage-sama. I'm sure you do, Mei said as she rolled her eyes, still unbelieving. Tell me, if you wanted to talk to me, why did you see it fit to infiltrate our land? Would your patrols have let a teenage genin from Konoha into Kurigakure if I had asked? Naruto inquired, arching an eyebrow at the woman. Mei allowed the smallest smile to grace her features. Probably not, Mei answered. And even if they would, if I had just asked to see you, would I have been allowed to? Naruto asked again. Her smile grew. No, Mei shrugged. You see why I thought to infiltrate with Zabuza. Naruto said, it should prove just how important my news is. How did you and this child meet, Zabuza-chan? Mei asked, directing her attention towards her old teammate. And what's the story with the two girls? Damn it woman, I don't remember you ever being this questioning. Zabuza grunted in annoyance. Just hear the kid out. I would, but, Mei said, tapping her chin thoughtfully. Her smile twisted into a sly smirk. I think I've stalled you long enough. The foursome's eyes widened when they heard her. Naruto glanced at Yuzura. He could barely see her ears twitching underneath their cover. She turned towards him with an alarmed expression. Naruto-sama, there's. Her sentence was cut short when someone crashed through the wall behind her. He heard Yuzura cry out as a dust cloud overtook her. Yuzura, Naruto called out as he rushed into the dust cloud. He was immediately blown backwards when someone punched him across the face. Get back. When the dust cleared, Naruto saw two figures standing in front of him. He recognized one of them as a younger Chojuro. He looked about the same age as Haku. The other was someone he didn't recognize. He had dark hair that reached to his shoulders with some of it tied in a long ponytail that reached to his back. He wore traditional Mist Ninja garb, barring an armored gauntlet that was worn on his right hand. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw Yuzura being held by the one with the gauntlet. Sorry we're late, Mizukage-sama, Chojuro said quietly, holding on to the double hilts of Haramakare from its position on the ground. Ryoichi and I had a little trouble breaking those ice mirrors. They broke after a few hits, but we couldn't do it fast enough. The one known as Ryoichi said, holding on to Yuzura tightly with one hand. On his back there was another sword Naruto didn't recognize. It looked long, sharp, and very deadly. There are a few walls that need to be fixed. Noted. Mei smiled at the two of them. By the way, you two are the only ninja swordsmen left. What happened to Tanma? Ryoichi asked. He glared at Zabuza and Naruto. Did they kill him? Assuming that it would be someone else would be insulting to such a fine warrior. Zabuza smirked. Bastard, Chojuro muttered, giving Zabuza a small glare before redirecting his attention to the floor when the ex-mist ninja glared back at him. Zabuza-chan and Naruto-chan, I would advise you two to surrender. Mei warned them, unless you want us to hurt your friends. Yujiro let out a pained whimper as Ryoichi pressed the sharp index fingertip of his gauntlet to her neck. Naruto glared at him. Like hell, Zabuza growled, lifting his blade off his shoulder. What's with this stunt, Mei? We're just taking care of one of our missing ninja and his accomplices. Mei smiled. It's what we do. Why you? Zabuza seethed, stepping forward. Don't move unless you want this girl to get hurt. Zabuza's eyes widened when he saw Ao holding Haku at kunai point. The missing ninja grit his teeth together as Haku tried to remain expressionless. Throw down your weapon, Ao commanded. I'll be fine, Zabuza-san. Haku assured him. She had been in situations like this before, and that didn't stop Zabuza from killing his enemies. The girl was surprised when Zabuza threw down his sword. Zabuza-san, Haku stammered. The man just glared at Ao. If didn't have memories of his past life he might have acted differently, but he wouldn't let Haku get hurt because of him again. Sorry, kid, Zabuza said, shooting Naruto a fleeting look. Guess this is a failed mission. Take them away, Mei said, waving her hand. A couple hunter nin ran into the room and grabbed Naruto and Zabuza by their arms. We've decided the times of their execution later. Why won't you listen to me? Naruto asked, rooting himself in place even when the ninja pulled out kunai and started to threaten him. Because you can't go unpunished for infiltrating Kurigakure, no matter the reason. Mei responded, giving him a smile. You got in, we talked, mission accomplished. Now, you have to pay the price. Goodbye. Naruto had enough. He'd make them listen. I want to know where the Rokubi container and the Sanbi no Kyodai game are. Everyone in the room immediately froze. Zabuza would have laughed at Mei's priceless expression if the situation was a little less serious. Ao, Chojuro, and Ryoichi's eyes were wide as they stared at the blonde. The hunter nin who held onto them exchanged nervous glances underneath their masks. How do you know about? Mei gasped in disbelief. Because I'm a Jinchuriki, Naruto said fiercely, glaring determinedly at the Mizukage. The hunter nin who were holding onto him immediately sprang away as if they had been electrocuted. Not one person moved to stop Naruto as he made his way to the Mizukage's desk. He placed his hands on the desk and gazed deep into Mei's shocked eyes. I'm the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko, the nine-tailed demon fox. Naruto said seriously, his eyes boring into Mei's. Something is coming and I want people to prepare. I need all the help I can get if I'm going to have any hope of stopping the threat that is to come. That's why I came to warn you. Why would a ninja of Konoha tell another village of the danger it may be in? Mei asked quietly. Because it affects all villages, not just this one. Naruto replied. There is one man that needs to be stopped, which is why I need an answer from you now. Mei just stared at him. Naruto stepped away from her. Where are Utakata and the Sanbi located? Naruto, Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed demon fox, stared expectantly at Mei Terumi, Godime Mizukage of Kurigakure. The Mizukage just stared back at him, shocked by what the boy had said. The boy knew of the Rokubi container and that the Sanbi was roaming around somewhere inside their borders. That was not public information, and the fact that a child from a foreign village knew of the two demons Kiri had worried her, even if he was another Jinchuriki. No, that fact alone didn't make her feel any more comfortable. Mizukage-sama. Mei snapped to attention when she heard Ao call her name. The veteran kept a firm grip on Haku, but she could see the worry etched on his face. She turned back towards Naruto. How do you know about the Rokubi and Sanbi demons in our lands? Mei asked suspiciously. Has Konoha been spying on us? I'll answer your questions when you let my friends go. Naruto replied, though it sounded more like a demand. Mei smirked at his tone. This for a brat, the kid sure had a lot of balls. Even Naruto was surprised by how confident he was being in a situation like this. The Mizukage leaned back in her chair, giving the blonde boy a sweet smile. She too was well aware of the situation and what little he could do. She had to admit though, he had gotten her curious. Ryoichi and Chojuro, confiscate their weapons first. Mei ordered, gesturing to Zabuza's sword and Yuzora's kodachi. While they moved to do that, Ao swiftly removed Haku's Senbon needle pouch from her belt. She nodded to the hunter nin who were shifting uncomfortably as they held on to Zabuza. You guys can leave. Ryoichi and Chojuro, you two stay. Nothing you heard leaves this room, got it? Yes, Mizukage-sama, the Mist Ninja chorused. They all bowed and disappeared from the room. Ryoichi and Ao released their captives after they had removed their weapons. Yujiro quickly scurried over to Naruto's side while Haku calmly made her way over to Zabuza. The fox girl gave her master an apologetic look. Naruto-sama, I'm so sorry for not noticing that they. Save it. Naruto interrupted her, giving the girl a warm smile. Like you said, everything will turn out okay. I promise. Yujiro looked like she wanted to say more, but the kitsune gave him a small smile and stepped back, leaving the Jinchuriki to attend to the issue at hand. Konoha hasn't been spying on you. Naruto answered Mei's previous question. The information I have on the Biju and their containers is something only I know. I haven't even told my own village about this. Why? Mei asked. What will Konoha gain from this? Woman, this has nothing to do with Konoha. Zabuza said in frustration, stepping up to her desk, ignoring the mist swordsman and Ao as they readied their weapons. Not yet anyway. What this kid is going to tell you will help the village, not endanger it. So then I assume you know what this kid is talking about, Zabuza-chan. Mei smiled at him. I do. Zabuza nodded. He glanced at Naruto as his hard gaze softened. This kid, he opened my eyes. He saved my life. And yours as well, Yujiro whispered to Haku. The girl being spoken to just stood there. She was more than a little shocked by recent events and could do nothing but stand there and listen to their conversation while trying to keep an expressionless face to hide how she really felt about the situation. Saving your life wasn't my intention, we both know that. Naruto said dismissively but in good humor, earning a scoff from the ex-Mist Ninja. But I'm glad it happened. You two are confusing me. Mei admitted, giving each of them a small glare. Speak so that all of us here can understand you. Sorry, Naruto apologized, turning his attention back towards the Mizukage. But you won't be able to understand everything I tell you. Things will get confusing for all of you, I'm sure. Joy, Mei smiled. But can you please answer my first question? How do you know about the Sanbi and Rokubi? Naruto sighed. He had to explain things so they could understand, they wouldn't get suspicious, and so they would agree to help him. This was going to be tough. I first learned of other demon containers when I met a boy named Gaara. He's the container of the Ikibi no Shukaku. Naruto revealed, surprising those present by saying he had already met another demon container. Naruto hadn't exactly met Gaara yet in this time, but they didn't need to know that. It was shortly after meeting him did I learn of an organization called Akatsuki. Naruto continued. After learning more about them, I found out the existence and general locations of the other containers of the tailed beasts. Is Akatsuki the threat you had referred to? Mei asked. The Akatsuki group is dangerous by itself, consisting of several S-class missing ninja from various villages. Kisame Hoshigaki is actually a part of this group. Naruto said darkly, earning more surprised looks from the Mist Ninja. But they aren't the threat I'm referring to. The real threat is one man who needs to be stopped. This man, while not publicly known, is the actual leader of Akatsuki and is the man who is a danger to any Jinchuriki out there. It's why I need to get in touch with the Rokubi container to warn him, and why I need to make sure the Sanbi is sealed away and kept under protection. Seal the Sanbi? Mei inquired. So you know it doesn't have a container? Yes, Naruto nodded. I also know that Yagura, the Mizukage before you, was the container for the Sanbi. How much does this kid know? Mei thought, wondering where the kid learned all of this. She turned towards Zabuza. Did you tell him that? I didn't even know Yagura was a Jinchuriki when I started my rebellion. Zabuza replied. This kid was the one who told me. This man can't be that dangerous. Ao spoke up. You said that this man and his group threatens all the villages. Surely you overestimate them. And you underestimate them. Naruto countered, turning towards Ao. You're actually the perfect person to ask. Tell me, what kind of person did you consider Yagura to be? What does that have to do with anything? Answer the question please, Naruto demanded. Yagura-sama was a kind person who cared for his village, despite mistreatment people dealt him because of his being a Jinchuriki. Ao answered slowly, remembering the young Kage. He wanted to become the Mizukage so people would respect him and see past his condition. He had a hard time trusting anyone, even those close to him, but he did care for his village. I'm sure he was respected to an extent, but people feared him, I'm sure. Naruto replied. Tell me, if he was so kind, why was his rule said to be so harsh? His actions did earn Kiri the title of Village of the Bloody Mist during his reign, after all. Was it because he was acting in the interest of the village, or was it because he was being manipulated? Ao's eyes widened at this. His look of surprise and shock was replaced with one of hard suspicion. How do you know of his being manipulated? Ao asked tentatively. You confirmed it, didn't you? I know that eye patch of yours hides a Byakugan behind it. Naruto smirked. How the hell do you know that? Ao demanded, voicing the question all Miss Ninja present wanted to know. That's not what's important. Naruto waved him off, annoying the veteran ninja even more as he turned away to redirect his attention back to the Mizukage. But what I think you'll be interested to hear is that the same person who manipulated Yagura into doing the things he did is the same person who will threaten the villages in the near future. It's the same man who I want to stop. Wait, are you suggesting you know who manipulated Yagura-sama? Ao asked, his eyes widening at the news. Come to think of it, you haven't given us this man's name, have you? Mei realized with mild shock. Who was Akatsuki's leader? Naruto took a deep breath, remembering the man who had declared the start of the Fourth Great Shinobi War. His name is Madara Uchiha. You may or may not know his name, but he's one of the most powerful ninja to have ever existed. Naruto said seriously as memories of his old life flashed in his mind. If his skills and intelligence aren't enough to make others recognize his strength, his ability to manipulate tailed beasts is the reason why one would fear him. He can manipulate tailed beasts, Mei said disbelievingly. How? Ao can probably confirm it for me, Naruto said, turning back towards the man. You saw through the genjutsu that had been placed on Yagura, right? Yes I did, Ao nodded, raising his hand over his eye patch for a moment. How was this Madara person able to control Yagura? With his Sharingan. I don't know how he does it, but his Sharingan not only has special time-space abilities, but also allows him to take control of tailed beasts. I assumed he used some sort of special genjutsu with his Mangekyo Sharingan to take over Yagura's mind and effectively become the true Mizukage of Kurigakure. Kisame was the only other one who knew of this. And he's part Madara's group, according to what you've told us. Mei nodded, thinking over what she had been told. It was a lot to take in. There were still so many questions to ask and so many that had been answered, but that didn't make her feel any less confused. Even if it was a child telling her this, she couldn't just write it off as some dream the kid had and decided to tell her. Everything Naruto had said was far too elaborate and detailed to be a joke. However, there was still one thing that had to be answered. What is Madara's plan, Naruto-chan? And how does it concern you, the Jinchuriki, and the rest of the villages? Mei asked. I can't answer that now. This earned surprised looks from everyone, including those from Naruto's party. Kid, what are you? Zabuza muttered. I've answered all of your questions, yet you answered my only one. Naruto said, stepping away from the desk. Tell me where Utakata and the Sanbi are, let me meet with them, then I'll tell you everything else. Let's say I give you the information you need. How do I know you'll keep your word? Mei asked. I will, it's just a matter of whether or not you choose to trust me. Naruto replied. And how do you plan to seal the Sanbi? I thought you'd have a library or a few scrolls one could look at to complete a seal I'm working on. It should be able to contain the Sanbi. And Utakata, the Rokubi container. What makes you think he'll listen to you? Naruto glanced at Yujiro for a moment before turning back towards Mei. He will, Naruto replied confidently. Mizukage-sama, surely you're actually going to let them go, are you? Ryoichi asked, refusing to remain silent when he noticed her thoughtful expression. They killed out Ninja and Tanma. We shouldn't let them go. That's what I think, Chojuro agreed quietly. He turned towards Ao, who was remaining silent. What do you think about this, Ao-san? The man opened his mouth to speak, but closed it and shook his head. He gestured to the Mizukage, a silent answer that said it was her decision. Mei held a thoughtful expression for a few minutes. Naruto held his breath, waiting for her answer. Eventually, a smile crossed her features and she gestured to Ao. Ao, take them to the library and let them look at some of our forbidden scrolls related to demons and seals. Everything else is of limits. Mizukage-sama, Ryoichi gasped, you're actually going to let them? Mei held up a hand, silencing the mist swordsman. Ryoichi, I can't make an immediate decision without hearing the entirety of this kid's story. Mei replied harshly, we'll discuss their punishment for killing our men and infiltrating our lands later. For now, we'll let them go about their business and see what they plan to do about the demons in our lands. Besides, I'm more than a little curious as to why Madara is so interested in the Jinchuriki and what he plans to do with them. Yes, Mizukage-sama, Ryoichi muttered, his tone resigned. Ryoichi, Head over to our special ops sector and find out where Utakaka and the Sanbi are currently located. Mei ordered. She turned towards Chojuro, smiling at him as he blushed at her sudden attention. Chojuro, you go to the library often to read, don't you? It helps pass the time. Chojuro smiled. Go with Ao and show our guests around and help them find what they need. I'm counting on you. Mei turned back towards Naruto. We'll have the locations of the Rokubi container and the Sanbi soon. Complete the seal you're making in the meantime. Thank you, Mizukage-sama. Naruto grinned, offering a short bow. You have no idea what this means to me. I'm sure I'll understand it more when you give me the full story. Mei smiled. I'm curious as to what this plan of Madara's is exactly. I'm also curious as to how you know so much when you're only a young kid. It's obvious he's much younger than you, Mizukage-sama. Ao sighed. Ao, was that an insult about my age? Mei asked slowly, smiling sweetly at Ao as the man paled. And no, I was just stating that he was. Zabuza's laughter cut Ao off in the middle of his sentence. He smirked at Mei. Still sensitive about your age? Zabuza chuckled. You really haven't changed. I'll kill you. Mei smiled at him, crossing her arms under her breasts. Don't say that while smiling. It's creepy. Zabuza chuckled. I'm only 25, Mei mumbled to herself. Well, you're not too old to have a quick match with me, are you? Zabuza challenged, his grin widening when he saw Mei smirk. Why you can't do that, Mizukage-sama, Chojuro spoke up. I think you might get hurt. Please, don't chide me, Chojuro. Mei smiled at him. She eyed Zabuza. Why the sudden urge to fight me? I thought you just came here for a friendly chat. I'm a little pissed at you for tricking us like that. It's also so I can warm up for the fight against the Sanbi. Zabuza grinned. I hate reading anyway. I'll let the kids do the research. Fine. Mei smiled, standing up from her chair. Mizukage-sama, you can't do that. Ao stated with a hint of exasperation. Zabuza is an A- class missing ninja. Even if you're confident, we can't risk you getting hurt, or worse, getting killed. Ao, I need a little excitement every now and then to stay in practice. I think Zabuza-chan can provide that excitement for me. Mei smiled, getting up from her chair. She bent down and lifted up the setsudenki that was set beside her desk. Besides, with this as my weapon, our fight will be over in no time. Confident, aren't you? Zabuza smirked. I am the Mizukage, after all. Mei smiled back at him. Mizukage-sama, Ao growled. It's just two friends having a quick spar. Right, Mei, Zabuza smirked, speaking up before Ao could get another word of protest in. I'm happy you see it that way, Zabuza-chan. Mei smiled. Naruto watched the exchange with an exasperated expression. He knew how powerful a person Mei was, and while Zabuza was skilled, he wondered how long he would last in a fight against the female Kage. Probably not that long. Naruto muttered to himself when he saw lava start to drip out of the holes in the setsudenki's blade. XXXXX. Naruto's eyes darted from the scroll he was reading to the scroll that had the near-completed seal for the Sanbi on it. He quickly but carefully copied a few symbols and wrote them on the scroll. Naruto sighed and leaned back in his chair, giving himself a moment to relax. He had never been fond of studying or reading, but he knew the seal had to be completed. He had already copied down the seals and marks that would cage the Sanbi, but he had yet to create the other half of the seal that would be able to channel and contain the three-tailed beast's chakra. It would be the part that would help stabilize the seal. I wonder how my dad got to be so good at creating seals, Naruto mused, letting out another heavy sigh. Creating a seal was damn hard, but Naruto had managed to do it. Studying the forbidden jutsu scroll had helped, and he was surprised he was able to create a seal for the Sanbi in only a few months. Here are some more scrolls, Naruto-sama. Of course, he hadn't made it alone. Thanks, Yujiro. Naruto smiled as he turned and accepted the bundle of scrolls the fox girl handed to him. All of their labels had demon or seal on them, so I just grabbed every one I saw. Maybe some were unnecessary, Yujiro thought aloud, tapping her index finger against her lips in thought. Don't worry about it, anything helps. Naruto grinned at her. The seal is almost finished, actually. Give me a couple hours and this thing should be ready to go. That's good to know. We've been in here for quite a long time. Yujiro giggled. Truth be told, reading was never a hobby of mine when I was younger. Ha, you and me both. Naruto laughed. I'm surprised I haven't fallen asleep yet. We have stayed up rather late, haven't we? Yujiro smiled, glancing at Chojiro's sleeping form in a chair a few feet away from their table. Their infiltration had commenced when it had just started to get dark, so they had already wasted away most of the night with their reading and writing. Al had come in a few hours ago to announce that Ryoichi had found the location of Utakata and the Sanbi, and the information would be given to them tomorrow after the seal was completed. The man had also dropped off a few pillows and blankets for them in case they got tired. Chojiro had taken one of the blankets after he had gotten tired of helping them research and promptly fell asleep in his chair. His light snores could be heard from where Naruto and Yujiro were sitting. "Sleep sounds pretty appealing right now," Naruto said as he stretched his arms a bit. He smiled when he heard Yujiro yawn. "And based on that, I'd say you agree with me." "Maybe I'm a little more tired than I thought," Yujiro yawned again. "But I can't rest until the seal is completed. Feel free to take one of those blankets and go to bed. I can complete this thing by myself," Naruto assured her, suddenly noticing how tired she looked. "You've done more than enough already." "And no, I don't need to sleep yet," Yujiro protested, fighting back another yawn as she picked up a scroll. "I'll start recording anything that's useful." "If you say so," Naruto smirked at her as she slowly fell into a seat beside him. Naruto watched her as her eyes started to lazily scan over the piece of paper set in front of her before turning back to his own scroll. His brush returned to the seal he was trying to complete. He tried to focus on the scroll, but Naruto suddenly found his thoughts drifting towards the fox girl next to him. Events from the night before suddenly came back to him. He smiled as he remembered her encouragement on the mission to alleviate his earlier worry. Naruto also remembered their brief talk about how they had both been brought back to life at the beginning, and he had remembered examining the seal on her neck. And the scar he had found on her back. So far, it was the only clue he had to her past. He found it a little unfair that she knew everything about his past while he still knew nothing about hers. Yuzora's reaction towards his discovering the scar left him a little more than curious. Naruto wondered if she even remembered the events of last night. Naruto realized that now was another perfect opportunity to ask her. "Hey, Yujiro, do you remember last night when I—" Naruto frowned when he turned to look at her. He was both amused and disappointed when he saw Yujiro sleeping with her head resting comfortably on her arms, which served as her pillow. Naruto chuckled a bit as he turned back to his scroll. This had better not become a recurring theme, Naruto muttered to himself. It seemed like every time he got around to asking her about her past, something would get in the way. It was starting to get annoying. "Looks like she crashed. She was tired. Let her sleep," Naruto replied to Haku without looking at her. The girl sat in the seat across from him and placed a few scrolls in front of her. "How close are you to finishing?" Haku asked curiously. "Pretty close," Naruto replied, looking up to smile at her. "I think really might have inherited some skill for seals from my father after all." He turned to look at Yuzora's sleeping form. Of course, it would have taken a lot longer to make without her help. Haku watched with a small smile as Naruto got up from his seat and took a blanket from the pile that was settled near the end of the table. He gently draped it over Yujiro, who shifted a bit and smiled a bit in her sleep. Naruto grinned and returned to his seat, aware of Haku's studying gaze. "You want to say anything?" Naruto asked. "You two have a really good relationship, I think," Haku commented, smiling warmly at the blonde. "I owe her a lot. I've only known Yujiro for a short time, but I've really come to appreciate her as a friend." Naruto smiled, glancing at the sleeping girl. "Also in that time, I've come to trust her with my life." "I envy your relationship," Haku sighed wistfully as she leaned back in her chair. Naruto arched an eyebrow at her curiously. "What are you talking about? It's no different than your relationship with Zabuza," Naruto pointed out. "Ah, well, I am merely a tool Zabuza-san can use too." "Stop," Naruto ordered, holding up his hand. Haku blinked at him. "You are not just a tool to him, Haku. Zabuza cares for you a great deal, and he would never see you as just a tool." "That's what our relationship has been though," Haku remarked. "He took me under his wing because he saw my potential. He saw me as a useful tool to accomplish his dreams. That may have been the sole reason at first, but trust me when I say he really does care for you." Naruto smiled as the memory of Zabuza avenging Haku came to him. "He would not hesitate to place your life before his own." "While I have my doubts on that, it's nice to hear you say that." Haku smiled as her cheeks turned a bit red. "Zabuza-san is my precious person." "Yeah, sorry for dragging you into this," Naruto said sheepishly. "Zabuza was the only person I could think of to help me get into Kurigakure. I was surprised when Zabuza-san had agreed to help you. He really seems to have changed over the past few days. Haku mused. A small smile formed on her lips. But I'm sure that has something to do with you giving him his memories back. Naruto's eyes widened after he heard those words. He looked at the smiling girl in shock. How the hell do you? Zabuza-san told me. Haku answered for him. She smiled softly at the distraught blonde. He felt that I shouldn't be kept in the dark about this, so he told me the reason behind his sudden changes and decisions. It sounded pretty unbelievable to say the least. How much do you know? Naruto asked, wondering how much Zabuza had told her. He only told me of the memory-sharing technique Yuzura-chan possess and about a past life which we both lived. Haku replied. He didn't tell me anything else, and rest assured, he didn't tell anything to anyone else either. Goo, I can understand why he'd tell you, but couldn't he have at least talked to me about it first? Naruto grumbled to himself. Even if she did know, Naruto imagined Haku still felt pretty lost. I mean, their situation was pretty hard to grasp unless you knew what he, Zabuza, Yuzura, and Kakashi knew. He cast a side glance at Yuzura, wondering if he should wake her up so he could share his memories with Haku. I don't need my memories if that's what you're thinking. Naruto was once again shocked by what she said. Haku just gave him a reassuring smile. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I can trust you, Naruto-san. Haku said as she smiled warmly at the shocked boy. I'll follow Zabuza's lead and trust in your decisions. I don't need to know about my past life, since the life I'm living now is all that should matter. Haku's face took on a wistful expression. After all, you've already saved both mine and Zabuza-san's lives in this new life. For that, you have my gratitude and my trust. Are you sure you don't want your or my memories? Naruto asked, still unsure. I mean, if you know about the future you might be able to get a better understanding about. I told you already, I trust you. Haku asserted, still smiling at him. I'm confident in whatever decisions you make, and I'm comfortable with my obliviousness towards the future. Haku gave him a sympathetic look. Besides, it must be quite a burden to know of your past as well. Naruto just stared at the girl. A small smile formed on his lips as the Jinchuriki shook his head. You're incredible. Naruto chuckled, amazed at Haku's attitude towards this. Ignorance is bliss, as they say. Haku giggled. I'm confident that you won't lead us astray, Naruto-san. You sure you don't want to know about your past? Naruto asked, still amazed that she knew his secret and chose to follow him. I would gain my old memories and yours as well, according to Zabuza-san. Haku smiled. That would take all the fun out of getting to know you better. Even if you say that, I already know plenty about you. Naruto smiled. Oh, how much exactly? Haku asked, curious as to how much he learned about her from his past life. I know that we're the same. We've both been alone and feared by others. Naruto said softly as he remembered their interactions in the past and their reflections on their childhoods. Haku's eyes widened at his words, realizing he knew more about her than expected. I was feared for being a Jinchuriki, while you were feared for your Kekkei Genkai. Events in the past that we had no control over brought others to see us as monsters, and caused people to cast us out. Life was hard, for the both of us. Naruto-san. But then we both found people who mattered to us. We found our precious people. Naruto grinned at Haku as he said these words. I strive to protect my friends, while you strive to protect Zabuza. When we finally found companions, we were both so happy. We wanted to protect those close to us. Protect our precious people, Haku echoed. Haku, in my past life I had always felt a connection to you because of our similar childhoods. It's a connection I still feel towards you now. Naruto grinned at her. I always regretted that we couldn't have met under different circumstances. In the past, we were enemies who fought each other. I had always wondered what it would have been like if we had gotten the chance to become friends. Friends, Naruto-san, Haku murmured unsurely, the very word sounding almost scary to her. Naruto gave her a warm smile, one that contained kindness, understanding, and sympathy. Haku blushed as the boy grinned at her. I'm really happy we got a chance to become friends this time. Naruto grinned. He held out a hand towards her. I'm really glad, Haku. Haku smiled at him, taking the boy's outstretched hand. So am I, Naruto-san. Haku replied, giving him a warm, genuine smile. So am I. Naruto's smile didn't leave his face as Haku released his hand and as he turned back to his scroll studying. Haku's smile didn't leave her face either. Even if she didn't know his or her own past, Naruto was grateful for Haku's faith in him. He wouldn't betray it. The seal was near its completion, and tomorrow was the day they'd go seal the Sandy and meet up with Utakata. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he wrote down some more symbols on the scroll. He decided, the Sandy would be the first issue to be taken care of. XXXXX. Here we are. Naruto turned towards his group after his announcement. Yujiro, Haku, and Zabuza all gave Naruto determined looks and firm nods. The boy nodded back, becoming more confident with their silent encouragement. He held a large ball with a tag attached to it in his hand. Naruto turned back to the expanse in front of them. This was where the Sandy was located. They all stood atop a large expanse of water. Behind them was a cliff with a forest resting on top of it. They were all currently at a gulf in the southwest of Kurigakure where the Sandy was located. According to the Mizukage, it rested in the deep waters below them. Naruto sighed as they remembered the conversation he had with the Mizukage before coming here. XXXXX. You mean you're not sending anyone to come help us? Naruto was astonished. Zabuza, Haku, and Yujiro stood behind him with serious looks on their faces. Mei sat at her desk with a gentle smile on her lips, without standing off to her right side. Ryoichi and Chojuro were standing guard at the door, listening intently to their conversation. Why would I send any of my men to aid you? Mei asked. I have no reason to. This is the three-tailed demon beast we're talking here, Naruto exclaimed. Even if it doesn't have a host, it's still pretty damn powerful. Which is why I don't want to risk any of my men trying to capture it. Mei replied calmly. The Sandy is perfectly content to stay where it's at, and we're content enough to not provoke it. I'm taking a big risk by letting the four of you go after it. We've sent large parties to try and take it down in the past. None of them ever came back. Ao told them with a stern look. After every attack, the beast would move to a different location. If we send a group with you, it would be encouraged to move again, or worse, encouraged to attack the village. If only you four go, it'll just feel like rats have invaded his home. Mei smiled. Will see you guys as pests that need to be squashed and go back to sleep after it's taken care of you. You make it sound as though it's a sure thing we'll be killed by the beast. Zabuza said, smirking wryly at his old teammate. It is a biju. Mei smiled at him. We'll take it down, Naruto said, the sheer confidence and determination in his voice surprising most of them. That I can promise you. We'll see, Mei replied. She suddenly took on a serious look. She gestured to Ao, who stepped forward with a carrier scroll. This is the only aid we'll be giving you. Ao opened the scroll and made a hand sign to empty its contents. A large ball with an explosive tag attached to it appeared in Ao's hand. He held it out towards Naruto, who took it with a puzzled look on his face. This is a very powerful bomb, Mei told him. Drop it into the water when you get to the gulf. It should wake up the beast and it should attack you on sight. Good luck. Thank you, Mizukage-sama, Naruto said, giving the woman a small bow. We'll subdue the beast and bring it back here after it's sealed. What will you do with it? We'll cross the bridge when the time comes, Mei replied. Now, you better get going. We'll give you Utakata's location if you successfully seal the Sandy. Naruto nodded, giving his pocket which contained the sealing scroll a firm pat. We'll seal it. XXXXX. You guys ready? Naruto asked, turning towards his friends. Just drop the damn thing in the water so we can get this thing started. Zabuza smirked, his voice sounding excited. I want to see what this thing looks like. Go ahead, Naruto-sama. Yujiro nodded. We're ready, Haku affirmed. Naruto nodded and activated the timed explosive inscribed on the tag. He promptly dropped it into the ocean and stepped away from where he had dropped it. What does that seal do exactly? Zabuza asked as Naruto took his place beside them. It's just a temporary containment seal for the Sandy. It's not powerful enough to seal the thing off forever, Naruto replied, his voice laced with tension. It should contain the beast for a few months, which gives Mei plenty of time to decide what to do with it. We'll have to weaken it first if we want to seal it though. Naruto was counting down in his head until the explosion went off. His hand went to his kunai pouch. What do you think Mei will decide to do with it? Zabuza asked another question. The safest thing to do would be to seal it inside someone. It's what I'm hoping she'll do, Naruto replied. Why do you ask? Zabuza smiled under his mask. Because I was thinking I could become its Jinchuriki. Naruto's head whipped around towards him. What? Then the body of water in front of them exploded. The group covered their faces as spray and foam washed over them, trying to stay balanced as large ripples crawled across the water's surface. When the water leveled out again, Naruto opened his eyes to see a demon in front of them. "There it is," Naruto whispered as he looked at the three-tailed demon turtle that was the Sanbi no Kyodai game. "So that's the Sanbi," Zabuza muttered as he too gave the large beast a quick look over. The demon beast floated on top of the ocean as water dripped off of it. It looked like a turtle in appearance with no hind legs, a crab-like shell with spikes, and 3 spiked shrimp-like tails that whipped around behind it. Its one red eye glared menacingly at the group who had dropped something unpleasant on it and roused it from its deep slumber. The beast opened its mouth and let out an intimidating, mighty roar. "This may be a tough battle," Haku commented. "I'll say," Zabuza smirked, lifting his sword off his back. "Let's see how powerful this thing is." To Naruto's surprise, Zabuza rushed the thing head-on. The blonde immediately summoned about a dozen shadow clones and sent them forward with Zabuza. Yujira drew her Kodachi while Haku prepared some water jutsu to use against the beast. Her Senbon needles would do little against its armored shell and skin. The beast roared again, rising up and slamming itself back down into the water, creating a massive tidal wave that rushed towards the advancing group. Naruto, Yujira, and Haku jumped upwards to avoid the wave, but Zabuza met the wall of water head-on and slammed right through it with his sword in front, coming out through the other side. Most of the Naruto clones had jumped and avoided the wave, but some had been swept up and taken out by the rushing water. Naruto cursed when the beast's head reared towards them. The creature opened its mouth and sprayed a geyser of water from its mouth, aimed for the trio that was in the air. Naruto, Haku, and Yujira covered themselves with their arms as the water crashed into them and brought them back down to the ocean. They quickly swam back up to the surface and used their chakra to regain their footing on top of the water. Zabuza continued his rush towards the beast. The Sanbi turned his attention to the advancing human and shot multiple water blasts at him. Zabuza either avoided them or cut right through them with his sword. As he drew nearer, the beast rose up again and came down on the swordsman, hoping to crush the small body beneath him. The ex-Mist Nin reacted quickly and jumped high in the air to avoid the creature's body slam. The beast reacted quickly and aimed its mouth upwards, firing off more water bullets towards its assailant. As Zabuza descended through the air, he twisted to avoid bullets and slashed the ones he couldn't with his sword. As he came down near the beast's head, he raised his sword up in an attempt to strike. "I've got you now," Zabuza smirked as he brought his sword down. His eyes widened when he saw something from behind the beast whip out at him. "Shit." Zabuza brought his sword around just in time to block the massive tail that slammed into him. It had enough force behind it so send Zabuza flying. The man crashed into the ocean with a large splash. "Zabuza-san," Haku cried in alarm when she saw the man hit the water. A few moments later, the man burst from the water and landed beside them. "It's strong," Naruto said, narrowing his eyes at the roaring creature. Though he had expected that. "I wasn't aware it could use its tail as a form of attack." Yujira commented as she watched the beast's spiked tails whip around behind it. If Zabuza hadn't had his sword to block the attack, he would have been crushed. "We need to find a way to get close to it," Naruto said. "Its right side is vulnerable to attacks because it can't see with its right eye. That's our best bet for an attack. What do you think, Zabuza?" The man didn't respond. He only stared at the beast with a strange look in his eye. Naruto arched an eyebrow at the man's behavior. Zabuza." The man smiled underneath his mask. He slammed his fists together as his eyes flashed with determination. "I've decided." Naruto blinked at him. "Decided what?" "I'm gonna make that turtle my demon." Zabuza grinned, shocking everyone with his sudden announcement. He lifted up his sword and rushed towards the three-tailed beast, letting out an enthusiastic battle cry. The demon responded with its own challenging roar. "Come on, try and get me," Zabuza challenged, jumping on the beast's forearm and slashing as he climbed towards its head. "Zabuza, be careful, this thing is too powerful for us to rush in like that," Naruto said, forming some hand seals and calling forth an army of Narutos adding to ones he already had. Haku was already preparing a few water jutsus while Yujira stayed back to guard her. "Ha ha ha ha, is that all you've got?" Zabuza chortled, bringing his blade down on the demon's head. "I'll show this beast that I'm worthy." Naruto groaned and rushed forward with his army of clones, hoping to give Zabuza some backup. His eyes widened when one of the Sanbi's tails whipped around as he came close, eliminating most of his clones in one sweep. Naruto narrowly avoided the second tail sweep that took out all but 3 of his clones. "Damn it," Naruto cursed as he tried to recover from the quick succession of attacks. His eyes widened when he saw the beast's third tail come around. Even as his clones moved to intercept the attack, he knew that they weren't enough to block or cushion the deadly attack. Naruto-san. A mirror of ice suddenly shot up from the water in front of him with Haku's reflection on it. Her hands shot out from the mirror and grasped his shoulders, pulling him towards her. What the? Naruto gasped as he was pulled into the mirror just as the tail was about to crash on top of him. His vision changed to an empty space of the lake where Yujiro stood. He fell into the water as he was pushed out of the mirror. Hell, Naruto finished as he fell into the water. Haku stepped out of the mirror after he stood back up. The beast is very durable, Haku commented as she watched the beast smashed her mirror and the remaining Naruto clones. Her eyes switched over to Zabuza, who was trying to hack at the creature and avoid hits from its tail by jumping from its head to its tail alternatively. It has surprisingly strong defenses. Small attacks won't be enough. We need to hit it with something more powerful, Yujiro commented as she stepped forward. I think I've got just the thing, Naruto said as he summoned 2 clones and held his hand out to them. You two distract him, I'll hit him with a wind chakra enhanced Rasengan. Be quick, let's go, Yujiro-chan. Haku nodded as she and Yujiro ran towards the demon. The Sandy was getting annoyed by the pest that kept on slashing at its face, the only part of its body that wasn't as armored as the rest. It let out another roar and reared upwards, flinging Zabuza off its body in his mid-jump. Yujiro and Haku were barely able to avoid it as it came back down. While it was distracted with attacking those 3, Naruto rushed it with his wind Rasengan spinning in his hand. Take this, Naruto shouted as he pumped chakra into his legs and jumped upwards. The Sanbi was too distracted to notice or block the boy's strike until he slammed his Rasengan in between his eyes. Naruto smiled when he heard the beast roar with pain and blood spurt from its forehead. His victory was short-lived when he saw a tail coming at him. Shit, I can't avoid it, Naruto cursed in his mind as the tail took a sweep at him. Naruto felt someone grab the back of his collar and jerk him upwards, just as the tail swept underneath him. That was a close one, Zabuza said as he released the boy. Naruto silently thanked the man in his head. They fell towards the water where some of Haku's ice mirrors appeared beneath them. The duo fell into the mirrors and came out 2 other mirrors a few meters away, safe from the tailed beast's attacks. Haku and Yujiro came out of 2 other mirrors that appeared next to them. All my Rasengan did was scratch him, Naruto growled as he looked over the trashing beast. We need something stronger to hurt him. But what? Haku asked. Do you know of an attack that can actually inflict damage to the Sanbi? Naruto knew he had one, but it was too dangerous to use. The Rasenshuriken was the only precise, powerful technique he had in his arsenal. Unfortunately, he couldn't use it without hurting himself. Naruto really wished he could go into Sage mode right now, then he'd have no problem taking care of the beast. The Rasenshuriken would probably have been enough. Naruto sighed. If I hit him between the eyes with it, I'm sure it would weaken the Sandy enough so we could seal it. Naruto-sama, you know we can't do that, Yujiro said sternly. It's the only thing I can think of though, Naruto said. What else is there? I could stab out its other eye with my sword. Zabuza smirked. It's pretty sharp. I'll bet the demon will have trouble hitting us if it can't see. Naruto blinked. Something about what Zabuza said sounded odd to him. The Jinchuriki glanced at the man's sword. An idea started to form in his head. That's it, Naruto exclaimed. I know how we can beat that thing. Does it have something to do with this? Zabuza asked, motioning to his sword. He was well aware of the looks Naruto had been giving it. I'll use my wind chakra to mold a Rasengan around your sword. Naruto grinned, happy that he had been able to come up with something. Do you think that will work? Yujiro asked curiously. Can the Rasengan take on the shape of a sword? The Rasengan stresses the use of shape transformation. That alone makes it powerful, and with my wind chakra added to it, not only should it be easier to shape, but it'll cut through that overgrown turtle's armor like butter. Naruto smiled. I'm sure I'll be able to shape it, but we've got to be quick. I've got an idea for that. Zabuza smirked as he pulled down his mask and bit into his thumb, drawing blood. He slammed his palm into the water. Summoning jutsu. 5 sharks appeared in the water around them. One swam up next to Zabuza and the man got on its back. He held out his blade towards Naruto. Get on them, Zabuza smirked. Yujiro and Haku will distract the beast while we come in from its right side. I hope you can make that Rasengan while on the move. I'll give it a shot. Naruto smirked as he summoned 3 clones. He and his doppelgangers each settled themselves on the remaining sharks, circling around Zabuza's blade, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. Let's do it. All right, go, Zabuza shouted. Yujiro and Haku disappeared into a mirror and reappeared in front of the Sanbi, getting its attention. The beast spotted its prey and proceeded to try and crush them with its tails and hands. Naruto and Zabuza pumped chakra into their legs so they could stay balanced on Zabuza's summons. The Narutos immediately began to release and shape the chakra around the blade. The sharks accelerated as they neared the Sanbi from the right, their advance going unnoticed by the tailed beast. We're getting close, Zabuza relayed to the boy. You almost done with it? Almost, Naruto answered, concentrating on shaping the chakra before him. He and his clone waved their hands over the blade as they moved under the beast. Naruto's eyes widened when the entire blade was covered in a greenish-blue glow. Now, Naruto shouted as his clones disappeared. Zabuza wasted no time. The shark he was on jumped out of the water, then Zabuza used it as a stepping stone to propel himself upwards. The demon of the mist raised his sword high above his head as he jumped in front of the demon's face. From the corner of its good eye, the Sanbi saw a human right in front of it. The beast opened its mouth, ready to blast away the pest with a heavy blast of water. However, it wouldn't get the chance. Wind release. Rasengan sword. Naruto shouted as Zabuza brought his sword down on the beast's head. The front of the beast's head was sliced open, the force of the blow sending the demon crashing into the water. The Sanbi let out a roar of pain as it collapsed into the water, blood gushing from its wound. Zabuza landed on the ground with Naruto's shark riding up beside him and dropping off the blonde from its back before poofing out of existence. Haku and Yujiro stepped out of 2 mirrors that had appeared on his left. Did we get it? Zabuza asked, his breath ragged. A low rumble came from the beast. It did not move as it floated on top of the water. Yujiro, now, Naruto ordered as he pulled out the sealing scroll from his pocket and bit into his thumb. The fox girl nodded towards him. Their hands were a blur as they made a quick succession of hand signs as the scroll opened before them. When they were finished, they slammed their palms down on the water, where symbols started to appear and circle around the down-tailed beast. Naruto made one last hand sign before holding the scroll out in front of him. Seal. The symbols started glowing as a small vortex opened up inside the scroll. Red chakra started to seep out of the Sanbi and was getting sucked into the scroll. As more chakra emitted from the beast, it started to lose its form. The Sanbi's body disappeared completely as the last of its chakra was sucked into the scroll. Naruto let out an exhausted breath as his shoulders slumped. Zabuza caught him as the boy started to fall forward. Did we do it? Naruto breathed. Zabuza smirked down at the boy. Yujiro took the scroll from Naruto's hand and rolled it up. Haku and the fox girl smiled at the tired blonde. Yeah, kid, Zabuza smiled, laughing at the boy's drained face. We did it. Naruto grinned at them. He leaned his head back and let out a happy laugh, his companions joining in his laughter. We did it, Naruto laughed. He felt tired. He had used up a lot of chakra when making the Rasengan sword and in sealing the Sanbi. But they had won. They had succeeded. They had successfully sealed the Sanbi no Kyodai game. Mei allowed a small smile to grace her features as she overlooked the foursome that had just entered her office. Ryoichi and Chojuro had surprised expressions on their faces while Ao offered the group a rare smile, nodding towards them with an impressed look on his face. The Mizukage joyfully clapped her hands together as she gave them a bright smile. You're not dead. Naruto and Ryoichi sighed. Ao shook his head in embarrassment, while everyone else just chuckled at the Mizukage's strange greeting. Zabuza smirked at the woman behind his bandages. Send us to go capture a tailed beast with no backup and that's the first thing that comes out of your mouth. Zabuza said, giving the woman a mock glare. How the hell did you become the Mizukage? I'm sorry, who only lasted 5 minutes in a fight against me. You don't have your sword with you now, Zabuza said threateningly as he gestured to his sword. Naruto shook his head at their antics and stepped forward. Haku tried to calm Zabuza down while Yujiro offered Naruto a reassuring smile when he looked back at them for support. The boy placed the scroll in front of the Mizukage. Here, Naruto said, pushing the scroll towards her. The sealed Sanbi no Kyodai game. Mei did not take the scroll immediately. Instead, she chose to regard the boy with a curious gaze. I'm impressed. I honestly didn't think you four would be capable of sealing it on your own, Mei commented, her tone conveying her amazement to them. I remember sending squads out before, but none of them came back. I wonder what makes guys so special. You sound disappointed, Naruto remarked. No, I'm more relieved than anything else. Mei smiled, shaking her head a bit. To be honest, knowing the thing was still on the loose out there was something that had always worried me. She slowly the scroll off the table and held it loosely in her hands. The question now is what to do with it. Why not just keep it in the scroll? Ryoichi asked curiously. Yeah, wouldn't that be better? Chojuro agreed. Fools. Demons are too powerful to be contained by small seals like this. At least not for very long. Ao scoffed. He turned his head towards Naruto. You knew that, didn't you? I'm a Jinchuriki. I know how powerful the demons are. Naruto replied, nodding at the man. He turned back to Mei with a more serious look. You have about a month or so to decide what to do with it before the Sanbi's chakra completely dissipates the seal. You do know what you want to do with it, right? Mei let out a heavy sigh as she dangled the scroll in between two of her fingers. A sad expression crossed her features before being replaced by one of irritation. There's only one effective way to seal off a tailed beast, and that's to seal it inside a human being. Mei sighed resignedly. It's our only option, but I don't know who would actually volunteer to become a Jinchuriki. Naruto looked down, silently agreeing with her. While Jinchuriki had a few benefits such as increased chakra reserves and a healing factor, it was still something he considered a curse. Naruto's harsh childhood was due to his being a Jinchuriki, and he wouldn't want someone to go through the same things he had gone through. While Mei knew that they had to find a container to seal off the Sanbi, she just didn't have the heart to force one of her own to become a Jinchuriki. Naruto knew it too. Mei could be cold and aggressive when the situation called for it, but she truly cared about her village. She didn't want to burden anyone with the curse of being a Jinchuriki. I'll do it. Everyone's heads shot up, their shocked expressions matching one another. Zabuza just stood there with his arms crossed, smirking under his mask. What? Mei said slowly, not sure if she heard her old partner right. I said I'll do it. Zabuza repeated, I'll become the Jinchuriki for the Sanbi no Kyodai game. Naruto suddenly remembered Zabuza's words before and during their fight with the Sanbi. You were serious about that? Naruto muttered in shock. Dead serious, Zabuza replied. So, let's do it. Seal the demon inside me. The man was met with a dead silence. Everyone was looking at the man like he had suddenly grown a second head. His sudden declaration and eager edge to his tone, coupled with the simple, blunt way he demanded it, left them all at a loss for words. Mei, Naruto, and Haku looked the most surprised. Hold on a minute, Zabuza, Mei said as she raised her hand towards him, being the first to recover. I won't ask why you're so willing to do this, but we can't seal it inside you. Why the hell not? Zabuza demanded angrily. What's the problem? First and foremost, you're a missing ninja in case you forgot. Mei deadpanned. You left the village after trying and failing to kill the third Mizukage. You're a wanted nin that has killed our ninja sent to retrieve you, not to mention you infiltrated our lands with that kid, which we still need to get done discussing, and second of all, you're an adult. Naruto finished for her. It would be impossible to seal the Sanbi inside you. What does me being an adult have to do with it? Zabuza asked cluelessly, turning towards Naruto. You never mentioned that in any of the discussions we had about the Biju. Naruto sighed. All Zabuza's questions about the Biju, Jinchuriki, the other containers and his eagerness to fight the Sanbi were all significant points he had failed to pick up on. Naruto really hated how dense he could be sometimes. Zabuza, Biju are generally sealed inside infants whose chakra coils haven't yet developed. Naruto explained, your chakra coils are already fully grown, so the Sanbi's chakra streams won't properly meld with your own. If the Sanbi was sealed into you now, your entire chakra circulatory system would collapse. Not only that, but the demon would probably get loose again too. Mei muttered grimly. She gave Zabuza a hard look. You don't meet the requirements, so we can't use you a Jinchuriki. Bullshit, Zabuza shouted, making everyone but Mei jump. If a seal on paper can be made to contain the Sanbi for a few months, then I'm sure you guys could make another seal so that the Sanbi's chakra can adjust with my own and get sealed inside me. Sealing scrolls don't have chakra circulatory systems of their own, Zabuza-chan. Mei pointed out, a small smile playing on her lips. Sorry, but it can't be done. Maybe it can. Another set of shocking words came from Ao's mouth this time. Everyone turned towards him. Why he would make such a wild declaration. The veteran mist nin appeared to be deep in thought. His one visible eye rested on Naruto. Ao, Mei asked. I've been thinking about what Naruto-san has told us so far, and if we think about what he's told us about Akatsuki and Madara, I think it would be best to seal the Sanbi inside Zabuza-san. Ao said, closing his eye as he reflected more on the idea. Based on what we know, Akatsuki is a very powerful organization run by a man with frightening powers. Frightening is putting it lightly, Naruto muttered. If Madara and the Akatsuki are as powerful as Naruto says they are, then we need the Jinchuriki of the Sanbi to be someone who can defend himself from those who would be after the demon inside him. Ao pointed out logically, obviously, an infant can't defend itself against an attack without a bodyguard, but it would be much better if the container could actually defend itself. If Zabuza-san is willing, then I believe he would make a suitable Jinchuriki for the Sanbi. But that still leaves the problem of his chakra system. Naruto pointed out, did you think of a way around that? What I thought of is only a hypothesis, but I don't believe a container needs to be an infant with underdeveloped chakra coils, but a person whose chakra system is fractured or incomplete. Ao stated thoughtfully. Explain your thinking, Mei asked the man politely. When I was Yagura-sama's bodyguard he often talked of the demon inside of him. From what I know, he was also known to have complete control over the beast inside him. I was able to learn much about the Biju from Yagura-sama. Ao explained. Because of that, one of the things I learned was that Biju are capable of healing themselves and their Jinchuriki hosts when hurt, right? That's right, Naruto affirmed. It was thanks to the healing factor that he barely had any scars on his body. Accelerated healing had helped him many times in the past. Now, this is only a theory, but if we sever some of the chakra veins in Zabuza's chakra system and then seal the Sanbi inside of him, the demon's chakra should restore his fractured system with its own chakra. This would allow their chakra streams to fuse without harming the demon or host. Ao finished. That's amazing, Ao-sensei, Chojuro praised, amazed by the man's thinking. Would that really work? Naruto wondered, seeing some sense in Ao's plan. As I said, in theory it should work, but, Ao trailed off. What are the risks? Mei sighed. Worst case scenario, Zabuza-san's damaged system wouldn't be healed and his body would be destroyed due to the immense overpowering of the Sanbi's chakra because of its imbalance with his own. The demon would probably be set free then too. Ao muttered, frowning as he told them this. Other possibilities could be that the Sanbi would completely absorb Zabuza's chakra and take over his body. Zabuza would become completely dependent on the Sanbi's chakra after it fuses with his own. The Sanbi's chakra would break apart in Zabuza's body because of his damaged system and kill them both. I could go on. So the chances of this working aren't very high, Mei said bluntly. Who can say? Ao sighed, leaning back against the wall. How would you be able to sever the chakra veins Zabuza-san's chakra system? Yujiro asked curiously. I can see his chakra system with my Byakugan. Ao answered, gesturing to his eye patch. All Ryoichi would have to do then is cut where I tell him to. Ryoichi-san, Yujiro asked. Everyone turned to look at the man who leaned against the door. I'm skilled in the medical field. Some could call me the medic of the Seven Swordsmen. Ryoichi said. He gestured to his sword. My sword, the Okunoken, is made of different kinds of swords conjoined together. In demonstration, he undid a few clips on his hilt and the sword deposited two small knives into his hand. The blade also seemed to get slightly smaller and thinner when the two knives separated themselves from the blade. It's got lots of different swords that make up one huge weapon. Most can be unequipped and used for different things other than fighting. Ryoichi said, I use these knives, and other smaller blades in this sword, for operation. Ryoichi-san can use his wind chakra to attack someone's chakra system with his smaller weapons too. Chojuro spoke up, he could cut up Zabuza-san's chakra system if he wanted to. Good news first then. Zabuza smiled, he turned back towards Mei. So, we good to go then? Zabuza-san, you can't. Haku's sudden outburst drew Zabuza's attention towards her. The man arched an eyebrow at her. What are you so worked up about? Zabuza asked, mildly surprised by her sudden, uncharacteristic reaction. You could die if you do this. Haku exclaimed stepping forward. You can't die. If you do, all your dreams will go to waste. You'll waste the second chance Naruto-san gave you. I would lose. Haku was silenced when Zabuza gently placed his hand on her head, an affectionate gesture he hadn't displayed since she was a child. Haku blinked as the man rubbed the top of her head. Zabuza ignored the looks he was being given as he smiled softly at her. I won't die, Haku. What happened in the past was a fluke. Zabuza said softly but fiercely. The only other people his mentioning of the past sounded significant to were Naruto and Yujiro. Have a little more faith in me will you? Besides, my goals have changed a bit in the past few days. Ahem. Everyone turned towards Mei who demanded everyone's attention. Zabuza gave her a small glare for ruining the moment. We never said we'd make you the Sandy's container. Mei said seriously. There's still the matter of your being a missing nin and infiltrating our lands. Damn it, cut the crap already. Everyone jumped when they heard Naruto's shout. The boy quickly stepped up to the Mizukage's desk, a severe but desperate expression on his face. Please, you have to realize how critical the situation is and how quickly it's going to escalate in the future. Naruto pleaded with the Mizukage. I came here to speak with you so I could help seal the Sandy away and find Utakata, risking my life in the process. We had good reasons for infiltrating your lands, and everything I have to say would be beneficial to Kurigake. You've said that before, but you haven't given us the full story. Mei argued. How do we know this isn't something Konoha has? I told you, Konoha isn't spying on you and I came here to warn you and seek help. Naruto interrupted her, gripping the sides of the desk as he tried to calm himself down. I know it's a hard thing to grasp, but everything I said is true about Madara and the threat he poses. Right now, we need to do everything we can to stop him and his plans. Which you haven't told us yet. Please, just listen to me, Naruto begged, surprising everyone when he got on the ground and bowed his head towards the Mizukage. What happened in the past doesn't matter now. We need to focus on what we can do in the present to help us in the future. I'll tell you everything about Madara after I see Utakata and when you reach a decision about what to do with the Sandy. I'm begging you, Mizukage-sama, please believe in me. Naruto raised his head, his blue eyes boring into hers. Please trust me. Mei just stared down at him. Everyone waited in tense silence for the Mizukage to speak. While everyone waited for her, Mei was going over something else in her mind. It was at this moment she realized that the boy in front of her was different, and it wasn't because he was a Jinchuriki. It was the look in his eye that told her this. She saw determination, confidence, wisdom, understanding, pain, sadness, anger, and so much more in those eyes. She had only met a handful of people with eyes like those. He's pretty strong for a brat, Mei thought as a smile made its way onto her face. She decided that she'd go along with him. For now. Ow, get ready to seal the Sandy into the new Jinchuriki. Mei ordered, surprising him with the sudden demand. Who? Ao asked cluelessly. Zabuza Momochi will be the Jinchuriki for the Sandy no Kyodai game. Mei announced. Mei, Zabuza smirked, glad that she had finally decided to trust them. So does this mean you'll help us? Naruto asked eagerly, getting up from his position on the floor. I never said that. I still don't trust you completely. Mei smiled. She held up her hand as Naruto opened his mouth to speak. But, no one, especially a kid, would try infiltrating Kurigake unless he had a good reason, and you four did seal the Sandy for me. It would be mean if I didn't at least hear you out in return. You don't have my trust yet. But you've earned my respect, kid. Thank you. Naruto bowed deeply towards the Mizukage. And Zabuza-chan, there's something you should know. Mei told him, turning towards the swordsman. If you agree to become the Jinchuriki of the Three Tails, then you can't leave Kiri again. You'll answer directly to me or Ao, and your status as a ninja swordsman will be reinstated. You'll be a ninja of Kurigake once again. Mizukage-sama, you can't be serious. Ryoichi protested again, voicing his objections on the matter. Zabuza and his party have committed crimes against our land that can't go unpunished. He killed our men, and he killed Tanma. And now, just because they sealed the Sandy, you're willing to overlook that. As long as Zabuza agrees to the conditions, that's how it'll be. Mei replied smoothly. Some of the councilmen might be against it, but they won't lay a finger on him if the sealing is successful. The curse of being a Jinchuriki is punishment enough, something I'm glad I wasn't forced to give one of the villagers. I agree to the terms. Zabuza smiled. You had better hear the kid out after we're done though. I will. Mei nodded. She gave Zabuza a serious look. However, if we're going with Ao's method of sealing, the process will be extremely painful. Are you sure your body can withstand having its chakra system torn apart and having the Sandy sealed inside you? I can take it no problem. Zabuza smirked confidently under his mask. Very well then. Ao nodded, stepping forward and taking the Sandy's sealing scroll when Mei offered it to him. Ryoichi, let's get going. Yes, Ao-sensei. Ryoichi sighed as he opened the door. I'm going too. Zabuza turned towards Haku who had a firm grip on his arm. The girl was giving him an oddly serious look. Forgive me, Zabuza-san, but I wish to be there for you during the sealing process. Haku said, giving him a fixed stare. The swordsman could see fleeting expressions of worry cross her features. I want to help if I can. May I go with you to support you? Do what you want. Zabuza responded as he followed Ryoichi and Ao out the door. Haku just smiled joyfully and followed after him. Naruto and Yujiro smiled as they watched her leave with him, happy that Zabuza had someone who could help him through the sealing process. Naruto-chan. The mention turned towards the Mizukichi who was holding another scroll he didn't recognize in her hand. She smiled and tossed it towards Chojuro, who fumbled around with it before catching it in his hands. That scroll details the Rokubi container's current location. Mei smiled. Naruto's eyes widened at this. Chojuro, I want you to escort Naruto-chan to the village Utakata is currently staying at. Okay. Oh, okay. Chojuro smiled. He gave the both of them a quick bow. You can both count on me. Thank you, Chojuro-san. Yujiro smiled at the quiet boy. Yeah, sorry for the trouble. Naruto grinned as he led them out the door. The blonde shot one last look at the Mizukichi before they left. Thanks again. Mei just smiled as she waved them off. XXXXX. Here we are. Naruto and Yujiro looked around the street Chojuro had stopped at. They were in a village a little northeast of Kurigakure. It wasn't that crowded of a city, but there were still quite a few people walking through the streets. Naruto scanned the area, trying to see if someone was wearing a blue kimono. He couldn't see any bubbles floating in the area either. I don't see him, Naruto commented, turning towards Chojuro. Ah, he's staying in that inn over there, actually. Chojuro smiled sheepishly, pointing to a small inn down the street. If our intel is correct, which it usually is, Utakata should be staying there. Oh, I get it. Thanks. Naruto grinned as he made his way towards the building. You're not coming with us, Chojuro-san. Naruto turned when he heard Yuzora's question. Chojuro stayed rooted in place while he nervously scratched the back of his head. The fox girl tilted her head to the side in question while Naruto also gave him a curious look. What's wrong? Naruto asked, stepping back over to them. Well, see, the swordsmen have been sent to retrieve him before so, Chojuro smiled a bit. I'm afraid of what will happen if he sees me with you. So that's it. Naruto nodded, understanding his reasons. He'd probably run if he saw even one missed ninja. Yeah, Chojuro chuckled. Plus, he's a very strong person. I have a phobia of bubbles because of him. That's really lame. Naruto laughed as Chojuro blushed in embarrassment. He's a fearsome guy, Chojuro admitted. I'm going back to Kurigakure. Good luck. Chojuro gave them a quick bow and left the area hastily. Yujiro waved after him before turning towards Naruto. So how should we approach Utakata-san, Naruto-sama? Yujiro asked curiously. Naruto didn't respond to her. Instead, he just pointed ahead at the inn with a smile. Look, Naruto grinned. Yujiro followed his gaze to see a young man wearing a blue kimono step out of a building, followed by a short old lady whom they assumed was the innkeeper. The man thanked the woman and paid her before calmly walking down the street. Naruto grinned and started after him, Yujiro following close behind. They followed Utakata through the village streets. He stopped at a few vendors who offered him free samples of food to which he accepted or declined, then went on his way. He seems like a nice person, Yujiro commented as she watched the Rokubi container. He's not the most talkative guy, but he's friendly. Naruto smiled as he followed his fellow Jinchuriki. Just keep in mind there are certain things you shouldn't mention in front of him. They followed Utakata out of the village. After walking down a trail for some time, the Rokubi container stopped and turned his head towards them. Is there a reason you two have been following me? Did we really make it that obvious? Naruto laughed, trying to sound friendly. That, and there aren't many ninja from Konoha who come to Kiri. Utakata commented, taking out his bubble pipe and holding it inches away from his lips. Who are you? Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto smiled. He gave Utakata a small bow. He decided to make things quick. Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox. Pleased to meet you. You have a biju. Utakata gasped as his eyes widened at the boy. Don't be so hostile. Naruto frowned when Utakata took a defensive stance. I'm not here to fight you or anything. There's just something we need to discuss, Jinchuriki to Jinchuriki. So you know about the Rokubi? Utakata frowned, though he had already guessed that. He slowly brought his bubble pipe to his lips. Sorry, but I don't trust another. His eyes widened when the girl standing next to the nine-tailed demon container was suddenly in front of him. Utakata was ready to jump away and avoid whatever attack the duo might have for him, but blinked when he felt the girl's fingers on his forehead. He noticed the girl had done the same to Naruto. Remember your past life, Utakata-san. The Rokubi container's eyes widened as a dam in his head burst, images of his past and Naruto's flashing through his mind. XXXXX. We're almost ready, Zabuza-san. Just wait a little bit longer. Zabuza ignored Ao's symbols and marks were being drawn onto his body. The man was covered in sweat and his breathing was ragged. Almost every nerve in his body was screaming in pain, a result of the surgery his chakra system had been given just minutes before the sealing process started. Zabuza-san. The swordsman slowly turned his head towards Haku, who gazed at him with worry in her eyes. She was holding onto his right arm tightly in support. He gave a reassuring smile in an attempt to assuage her worries. I'm fine, Zabuza breathed through clenched teeth. This is nothing. The severing of his chakra system had been more than painful. Almost every chakra vein in his chakra pathway system had been severed during the process. They had been cut into tiny pieces inside his body, and the theory was when the Sanbi was sealed inside him, its chakra would heal his fractured system. Or it would kill him. No one could be sure. We're ready, one of the ninja who had been drawing the symbols told Ao. The sealing of the Sanbi may begin. Ao nodded as Haku stepped away from Zabuza. They all gathered around the sealing circle that Zabuza was in the center of. They all made hand signs in preparation, ready to seal the Sanbi's chakra into Zabuza's body. Haku stood off to the side with Ryoichi. Both of them observed the ritual with looks of anxiety on their faces. Ao took out the scroll that contained the Sanbi's chakra as he finished making the necessary hand signs. He slammed the scroll into the ground and on top of one of the symbols that was in front of him. Seal. All the symbols on the ground and on Zabuza's body glowed red as the Sanbi's chakra was sucked out of the scroll and transferred into the swordsman's body. The man's body jerked as red chakra flowed into his body. Zabuza let out a painful cry that echoed through the room as the last of the Sanbi's chakra was taken into his body. Zabuza-san, Haku cried, rushing towards him as he collapsed on the ground. The seal marks on the floor and on his body disappeared. Just as Haku moved to help the man up, he shot up from the ground, his breathing hard and ragged. Ryoichi and the other ninja watched worriedly as he tried to recover himself. Ao's unsealed Byakugan eye scanned Zabuza's chakra systems. The mist ninja's face was one of pure shock as he saw how the Sanbi's chakra was interacting with the swordsman's. Amazing, Ao whispered as he watched Zabuza's fractured system restore itself with the Sanbi's chakra. Zabuza's chakra and the Sanbi's chakra melded alongside one another as his pathway system was healed. He could distinctly make out Zabuza's blue chakra and the Sanbi's red chakra. It actually worked. Are you okay? Haku asked, worried when Zabuza didn't respond. The man slowly looked up at her. Haku gasped when she saw Zabuza's eyes had turned completely red, reminding her of the Sanbi's one eye during their fight with it. However, his eyes slowly faded to their original dark color as a seal appeared on the man's stomach. Ao slowly approached the two as he stared down at Zabuza. How do you feel? Ao asked tentatively. Zabuza simply raised his head and smirked at the man. Never better. Haku smiled with relief while Ao nodded his approval, Zabuza's words chasing away any worry he had left. Zabuza Momochi was now the new Jinchuriki for the three-tailed demon beast. XXXXX. So how do you feel? Quote. Naruto sighed and leaned back against the tree. Utakata sat beside him, staring in front of him with an expressionless face. Yujira just sat on Naruto's other side, casting quick side glances at the duo while she idly played with the grass beneath her fingers. Utakata, you still in there? Naruto asked, waving a hand in front of his face. The Rokubi container turned towards the Kyubi container wearing that stoic expression of his. He allowed a small smile to make its way onto his face. We meet again for the first time, Naruto. Utakata told him. Wah. We have met in our past life, but we are meeting each other for the first time in this life. Utakata smiled. So I am correct in saying we are meeting again for the first time. I guess. Naruto gave a light chuckle, still confused by his words. Any questions? Many. Thought so. Who's she? Utakata pointed to Yujira. The fox girl just waved her hand at him in greeting. Pleased to meet you, Utakata-san. Yujira smiled. I am Yujira, Naruto-sama's vassal and servant. I hope we can get along. Same here. Utakata nodded before leaning back against the tree. Naruto really didn't know what to expect from him. Utakata had a somewhat careless personality, so he seemed to take everything in stride. Naruto was sure that didn't mean he wasn't curious about their situation. I'm sorry, Utakata said, surprising Naruto with his words. Maybe if I had been there to help you and be. Naruto smiled at his fellow demon container. He shook his head. It's in the past now. We've just got to make sure it doesn't happen again. Naruto grinned. It's why I wanted to find you. I came to warn you so that this time we can work together to fight Madara. I'll assume you plan reach the other demon containers as well, right? Utakata inquired, arching an eyebrow at Naruto as he blew a few bubbles from his pipe. Yeah, Naruto nodded, confirming his plans. He slowly got up from his seat. We should probably get going. To where? Utakata asked as he stood up. To meet with the Mizukage. Naruto replied, there are still a few things I need from her, plus I've got some questions to answer. You should probably hear them too. Naruto gave Utakata a meaningful look, silently pleading with him to cooperate and go with him. The Rokubi container wasn't the most trusting individual and preferred to keep to himself, but since he had memories of the past he hoped that he'd trust him. Still, Utakata would probably still be reluctant to go see the Mizukage, someone who had sent Hunter Nin after him more times than he liked. To Naruto's relief, Utakata sighed and gave a small shrug of acceptance. I suppose I should, Utakata said simply. Hopefully it'll help me make sense of some things as well. His most vivid memory was Pain's assault on him. While the man had been the one to subdue him, he hadn't known much about Pain or the organization he worked for. Plus, he wanted to know more about this Madara person that was present in most of Naruto's memories. Thanks, Utakata. Naruto smiled. This will also give you a good opportunity to meet the new Sanbi container. Utakata blinked. The Sanbi container. XXXXX. I can't believe this, Ao whispered, his expression one of pure shock. That man, to think that he and, with Yagura-sama. Madara is quite the madman, isn't he? Mei mused as she thought over what Naruto had told them all. His plan is something else. Naruto gave them a moment to think things over. Yujiro stood beside him with Haku next to her. Zabuza and Utakata stood off to the side of the room, leaning against the wall as they listened to everyone talk. Chojuro and Ryoichi stood by the door with odd and shocked expressions on their faces. Other than them, no one else was in the room. Naruto had told them everything he knew about Madara, Akatsuki, and their plans. He had told them everything about their members and Madara's Moon Eye plan and his goal to acquire all the tailed beasts and fuse their chakras together to create the 10-tailed demon beast and become its Jinchuriki. Needless to say, it was a lot to take in. The Jubi, who would have thought such a creature existed? Ao sighed. If someone had the strength of all the tailed beasts combined, their powers could be compared to a god's. There is one weakness to that plan though, Naruto pointed out, getting everyone's attention. For this plan to work, Madara needs to stay under the radar and get the Akatsuki members to do the work for him. They'll collect the demons while Madara works from behind the scenes, drawing everyone's attention away from him. Nagato, the acting leader of Akatsuki. Mei nodded. Everyone would assume Akatsuki and its members would be the real threat. Madara could do whatever he wanted while he used the organization as a cover. One of the reasons Madara won last time was because nobody knew about him from the beginning. Naruto thought to himself, Orochimaru, Kabuto, Itachi, Nagato, and the entire organization of Akatsuki. We all assumed they were the real threats, but Madara didn't come into the picture until the dawn of the war. It took everyone by surprise. If he's after the demons, then wouldn't it make sense to hide their containers? Ryoichi suggested. Yeah, if Madara doesn't know where they are, then he won't be able to capture them. Chojuro nodded. Then all we would have to do is take out Akatsuki. Then Madara wouldn't have anyone to do his dirty work or cover for him. Ryoichi grinned. We could then track him down and finish him off. No, Naruto shook his head, remembering his time with Bee on Turtle Island. No matter where we go, Madara will find us. This man is incredibly resourceful, and will do anything to find out where the current containers are located. Hiding won't work. It didn't work last time, and it sure as hell won't work this time. Our only option here is to fight. Utakata agreed with Naruto, remembering how he had been captured in his past life. But we also can't risk tipping Madara off. Zabuza pointed out, the new Jinchuriki for the Sanbi also being aware of Naruto's plans. We shouldn't move against him or Akatsuki for some time. Do you have a reason for this? Mei asked. I do agree with Ryoichi somewhat. We know who the real threat is, so why not take care of it? Madara is arrogant, but he's not stupid. He's extremely cautious, and will only move when he believes all the pieces are in his hand. Naruto explained, which is why we don't move until Akatsuki does. Instead, we prepare ourselves and alert the other demon containers. So all you'd have us do is bind our time until Akatsuki decides to move. Mei smiled. That's some plan you've got there. It's the best one I've got. Naruto said. We know Madara is out there. Now all that's needed to prepare without alerting him. We don't want him to know that we know of his plans, which is why I'd like to ask all of you to keep this quiet for now. Please, don't tell anyone what I've told you. What about the other villages? Ao asked. Should we notify them now, or wait until later? That's another thing I wanted to discuss with you guys. Naruto said. Kumogakure has 2 Jinchuriki within its borders, just like Kiri. Oh, and would you happen to know who they are? Mei asked curiously. The container of the 8-tailed beast's name is B, also the brother of the current Raikage. Naruto revealed. I don't exactly know who the other one is, but I do know that she's the container of the 2-tailed beast. And do you want Kiri to do anything about those Jinchuriki by any chance? Mei asked suspiciously. One of the reasons I wanted to get your help was so that you could keep an eye on Kumogakure. Naruto admitted sheepishly. Your nation is the closest to it, so you'd have an easy time keeping an eye on and getting intel on the containers there and help make sure Akatsuki doesn't catch them off guard. Plus, that Raikage can't be trusted. What about Suna and Iwa? Ao asked. Suna is already on my side. Naruto smiled confidently as he thought of the Ikibi container. If I ask, I'm sure they'll help keep an eye on Iwa for me. Once Gaara becomes the Cage, of course. My prediction is that Akatsuki won't move for a few years. Naruto said. Until then, Kiri can prepare itself for whatever Madara might pull. Don't take any drastic actions unless you receive some sort of message or signal from me. And I say again, don't let anyone know what you know, okay? You're certainly asking a lot from us. Mei smiled. You do know that Kiri has absolutely no obligation to help you or Konoha. Your crimes have already been pardoned for helping us seal the Sanbi, but we don't owe you any more favors. What would you do if Kiri chose not to help or go along with your plan? What would you do if we decided to tell the other cages? Then that would be your choice. Naruto said slowly, surprising Mei with his answer. All I had wanted to do was talk with you Takata, make sure the Sanbi stayed safe, and give you fair warning of Madara's plans in hopes that you'd decide to help me. I knew of the risks and possibilities, but I had to come here. Naruto sighed. Truth was, he had been hoping for an alliance with Kurigakure. In his past life, he and Mei had gotten along pretty well. She was actually planning to form an alliance with Konoha and Suna after the war with Madara. Still, the past had no effect on the present, and Mei had no reason to trust him. He knew she wouldn't reveal the information on Madara and his plans to the other cages for shits and giggles, but now that she knew he couldn't stop her if she wanted to share it with anyone. Look, I know it's not the best plan. Maybe waiting until they make the first move is a mistake. Naruto sighed. He shook his head and gave the Mizukage a confident look. But surprise and tactics are some of the best weapons for ninja. I've thought long and hard, played out different scenarios in my head, but I think this is the best course of action we can take for now. If we're patient, we can be the ones to get the jump on Madara. We have the element of surprise this time. This is our advantage. Naruto bowed his head towards Mei for the second time that day. I know that I'm probably being selfish, and you probably don't want to follow some kid's plan, but please help me. Naruto pleaded with her. I'm not asking for Kurigakure to ally itself with Konoha. I'm asking for your help because I have people I want to protect, precious people I don't want to lose. Please, Mizukage-sama, help me fight against Madara. Naruto-sama. Yujiro whispered softly, watching her master bow his head towards the woman. Utakata and Zabuza just stood there with melancholy expressions on their faces, thinking back to their demises and events of the past. Haku smiled at Naruto's conviction, his strong desire to protect those around him moving her. Ao, Chojuro and Ryoichi remained silent, waiting for the Mizukage to respond to him. Okay. Every almost feel over when they heard Mei's joyful reply. Naruto recovered quickly and gave her an incredulous look. Why, you're really going to help me? Naruto asked, her simple answer throwing him completely off guard. Of course, Mei beamed. If it's for the sake of the village then of course I'll help you. You've earned my trust, Naruto-chan. When was that? Utakata mumbled skeptically. Mizukage-sama, be serious. Ryoichi quickly added, you can't be so quick to go along with. Shut up, Ryo-chan. Mei snapped at him, silencing the young man. She gave Naruto a bright smile. I'm sorry for everything I put you through, but it takes time for me to make a decision. After hearing everything you've said and seeing your determination with my own eyes, I've decided Kurigakure will back you up. I'll work together with Naruto-chan to stop Madara. Mei turned towards Utakata and Zabuza. Both men blinked at the sudden attention. You two will be helping out too, won't you? Mei smiled. Zabuza-chan, you'll have to stay in Kurigakure for the time being, but I can help you grow stronger in the meantime. There are very few people who can last 5 minutes against me. Thanks, Zabuza chuckled, shaking his head at the woman. Utakata-chan, I'm hereby reinstating you as a ninja of the mist. Mei smiled. Since you've had your demon longer than Zabuza-chan, you'll help him get control over his demon, won't you? I don't need my status as a mist ninja re-established. Knowing that you won't be sending your men after me anymore is enough. Utakata bit back. He glanced at Naruto, who gave him a serious look. He had already gone over the plans with Naruto, but he didn't need to become a mist ninja again. I don't answer to you. But you have my cooperation. Good. Mei smiled, clapping her hands together. She grinned at Naruto. We're all friends now. Let's work together for a better future. Thank you. Naruto stuttered, feeling excitement build up inside him. His lips turned upwards in a large smile. I did it. I don't believe it. He had gotten Kurigakure's alliance. But there's just one last thing you have to do for me. Mei broke in, shattering Naruto's growing enthusiasm. Naruto grew worried. What is it? XXXXX. Naruto sat on a barstool with a mug filled to the brim with sake set on the countertop in front of him. The blonde let out an uneasy chuckle as he thought about the reason for his being in a bar. Turns out, Mei's last request for him was to go out and drink to their new alliance. A sort of celebration Zabuza had claimed was just an excuse so she could drink. Naruto glanced behind him at the said Mizukichi, who was happily drinking a table or two away. Chojuro was nervously holding at least 3 empty bottles in his shaky hands while Ao had a few drinks she offered to him. He was smart enough to drink in moderation. Ryoichi sighed and poured their cage another glass when she demanded it. A few people around them were giving the group odd stares. Yujiro and Haku sat in a booth with Utakata. None of them drank, so they were content with making small talk with each other. The blonde Jinchuriki laughed to himself when he realized how much Mei suddenly reminded him of Tsunade and her drinking habits. Maybe I'll get to see Ba-chan sometime soon, Naruto mused to himself. The team grinned as Zabuza sat down next to him. The man had a bottle of whiskey in his hand. Who would have thought? Zabuza smiled, drinking straight from the bottle. Beside him, Naruto held his own drink as he looked at the man beside him. I agree to partner up with some kid, help him infiltrate the land I vowed never to go back to, found out my old partner Mei became the Mizukichi while I was gone, got my ninja swordsman title and missed ninja status given back to me, and became the new Jinchuriki for Sanbi. Zabuza laughed at the incredibility of it all. Seriously, what the fuck? You don't seem to mind it much. Naruto noted, smiling a bit at his attitude. Of course not, sure beats dying, and with this new power I can take what's mine whenever I want. Zabuza smirked. He barked for another bottle. Life is grand. I'm a little surprised by how things turned out. Well, a little, might be putting it lightly. Naruto grinned, earning a chuckle from Zabuza. But it all worked out better than I expected. I think I can rest easy knowing that the Sanbi and Utakata will have more protection this time around. He turned towards Zabuza. So, what do you plan to do? You mean until Akatsuki and that Uchiha bastard decide to make their move? I guess all I can do is train. Zabuza shrugged as he took a swig from his bottle. What's your plan though? I'm sure you'll have a lot more to do than I will. Naruto nodded, thinking of the Chunin exams that would occur in a few weeks after his return to Konoha. Orochimaru, Kabuto, Gaara. The exams had a lot of key events that he wanted to change. I'll take care of it. Naruto smiled, surprised by how casual and calm he felt when he thought of one of the times where his life had been threatened the most. He grinned at Zabuza. I mean hell, if things turned out okay here then I'm sure things will be okay during the Chunin exams. I'll change things for the better this time. I'll drink to that. Zabuza grinned, holding his bottle out to Naruto. A toast to a better future. I can't drink. I'm 13, Naruto protested. So what? Zabuza chuckled. You've lived 2 lifetimes so technically you're 29. Besides, no one in here's gonna give a damn if you have a few beers. Naruto sighed at the man's flawed logic and stared down at his mug. He was not a stranger to bars since Jiraiya and Tsunade had dragged him to many, and he had even built up a bit of a tolerance for the stuff when he was older. Naruto shrugged and knocked back his drink. Time to test if he had kept that mild tolerance too. XXXXX. I forgot how much I hated alcohol though, Naruto blanched. At least he wouldn't wake up with a hangover. It was already late by the time they returned from the bar, so May offered Naruto's party some rooms to stay in for that night at a local inn for free. As an added bonus, the inn had an outdoor hot spring, something Naruto was currently enjoying. He had been to many in his travels, and he had come to appreciate them as one of life's small gifts. Nothing beats soaking in a spring after you had just got done traveling or fighting an enemy. Naruto sighed in contentment as he sank deeper into the hot waters. This feels so nice, Naruto mumbled happily to himself. Naruto sat up when he heard someone open up the entrance to the spring. He heard the person get into the water. The mist was thick so he couldn't see more than a foot in front of him. He squinted as he tried to see through the mist. Hello, Naruto greeted unsurely when he could make out the person's silhouette. His eyes almost popped out of his skull when the person stepped in front of him. Hello, Naruto-sama, Yujiro greeted him cheerfully. Wah! Naruto flew backwards and hit his head against the rocks. He let out a pained yelp and crashed into the water. Naruto-sama, are you okay? Yujiro asked worriedly as she waded through the water towards him when he resurfaced. Are you hurt? Your nose is bleeding. I'm fine, Naruto commanded, trying to pinch his nose shut to keep blood from coming out. His face was completely red. What are you doing in here? I enjoy hot springs, and I thought I could wash your back for you. Yujiro smiled at him as she stepped in front of him again. Naruto's eyes widened as she folded her arms behind her back, completely heedless of her nudity. Is that all right? Naruto lost his ability to form coherent sentences as he looked away from her. Could you change into your fox form, please? Why? Yujiro asked, tilting her head to the side. It's extremely uncomfortable for me when my fur gets wet in that form, so I prefer my human form when I bathe. Besides, it will be much easier to wash you with my hands rather than my paws. I'm getting out, Naruto muttered as he hastily stepped out of the water. But you just got in here 5 minutes ago. Just as Naruto was out of the spring, he was met with another surprise. Hello, Naruto-san, Haku greeted him with a smile. Naruto shouted before falling backwards into the water again. Haku giggled to herself while Yujiro tried to help him up despite his begging her not to get close. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Haku smiled as she saw Naruto blush. Unlike Yujiro-chan, I have a towel wrapped around my body. After Haku had gotten Naruto to calm down, she convinced Yujiro to wear a towel to cover herself only if Naruto would allow her to help him bathe. Hence, Naruto and Yujiro sat on the patio, the blonde Jinchuriki blushing as he sat on a stool while the fox girl rubbed his back down with a cloth. Haku was content to soak in the springs, enjoying their company. Why aren't you guys on the girl's side? Naruto wondered. This is a mixed bath. Yujiro answered for him. The nice old lady who runs the inn says that the mist is so thick that you can't really see someone unless they're right next to you. She didn't feel like there was any need to make separate baths. You don't say, Naruto mumbled. I thought most boys your age would enjoy having intimate moments like this with other girls. Haku smiled. Naruto frowned when she heard the girl laugh. It wasn't that he didn't appreciate a little eye candy, and he had seen naked women before, but he did respect a woman's decency. Seeing Yujiro and Haku in such states so suddenly came as a bit of a surprise to him too. Still, he wasn't a pervert, and he wasn't Jiraiya. I'm surprised you feel so comfortable with another guy here, Haku. Naruto grinned, remembering how he had found out she was a girl. After I accidentally stepped in on you at Tazuna's house, I would have thought you'd be more embarrassed. Well, that was a surprise for me and you can't see anything through the mist so, Haku sputtered, sounding surprisingly flustered. Anyway, I was just thinking that a lot has happened in a few days. Thanks for all your help. Naruto smiled, not daring to turn around. I wouldn't have been able to get this far without you or Zabuza helping me. The Sanbi was quite the opponent. Haku mused as she leaned against the rocks. I'm surprised that we were able to defeat one of the tailed beasts. We got lucky, Naruto admitted, combing through his wet locks with his hand. From what I know, it grew weak over time without a container. And you're saying that it didn't use its abilities to its fullest because of this? Yep, Naruto said. One of its specialized techniques was a hallucinogenic mist it could use to cast a strong genjutsu on someone. I noticed its tidal wave attacks were less powerful than they could have been. Even if its powers were limited, it was still a very powerful creature. Haku said, and to think that there are 9-tailed beasts in all. All of them sealed inside containers now. Naruto grinned. Zabuza's becoming a Jinchuriki was a definite plus. Naruto paused, thinking of all the crap the Kyuubi had given him in the past. Well, maybe. Zabuza-san is a very strong person. I'm sure he'll master his demon in no time. Haku smiled. Besides, with Utakata-san agreeing to help him understand more about the Biju, I'm sure he'll find a way to use the Sanbi's chakra. Haku sighed as she thought of everything she had heard today. The Moon Eye plan. Madara needs all the tailed beasts in order to make his plan work. One of the reasons I think he got us all last time was because we were all separated. Naruto said, narrowing his eyes as he thought of his past. Individually, the Akatsuki are capable of defeating us one by one and can take our Biju from us. But if we fight together this time, they'll have a hard time taking us down. I answered any questions Utakata-san had. Yujiro spoke up. He'll support you in any way he can, Naruto-sama. I'm glad he decided to go along with my plan. Naruto grinned. Giving him my memories was a good decision after all. You're slowly gaining more allies. Yujiro smiled. Now that you have a chance to prepare ahead of time, you'll be able to strike when Madara least expects it. Hell yeah, Naruto laughed as he punched his fist in the air. His old, careless demeanor he had in his past life momentarily resurfaced. That Uchiha bastard will get what's coming to him. I'll protect everyone this time. Naruto-san, if Yujiro-chan could share your memories with someone, why didn't you share your memories with the Mizukage? Haku asked curiously. Wouldn't that have been easier? She might have cooperated easier, she might not have. It's impossible to say. Naruto shrugged. But if sharing my memories with everyone would fix everything, I would have already done it. I have to be careful who I give memories to. Memories of the past can affect one positively or negatively. Yujiro said sagely. Some may decide to act on their own and interfere with Naruto-sama's plan. Only certain people who had Naruto-sama's complete trust in his past life will have their memories returned to them. With a few exceptions, Naruto added, thinking of one person in particular. Well, good luck. Haku smiled. She looked down into the steamy waters. I wish I could do more to help you too. After all, you've done so much for Zabuza-san and me. You even managed to save our lives. Don't worry about it. I'm glad you guys got a second chance too. Naruto grinned. You have no idea how it feels to see people who died in my past life. Seeing Kakashi, the old man, Zabuza, you. I'm really glad I got to see you all again, especially after my big screw-up. Naruto-sama and I will miss you. Yujiro grinned. Same here. Haku smiled. By the way, Yujiro-chan. How did you get that scar on your back, if you don't mind me asking? Naruto felt Yujiro stiffen behind him. Her hands that had been washing his shoulders stopped moving and dropped the cloth to the ground. The relaxed air suddenly turned tense. Haku took notice of it and bowed her head. I'm sorry, should I not have asked? Haku asked quietly. I had seen it on my way in and grew curious, but if you're not willing to share, that's fine. Naruto disagreed. This was the perfect opportunity. Actually, I'd like to know a bit about your past as well. Naruto said, looking up a bit. He could feel Yuzora's purple eyes on his back. After all, when I think about it, you know all about my past but I know nothing about yours. I've always been curious, but when I saw that scar a couple nights back I really wanted to know. It's only fair, right? He probably sounded insensitive, but Naruto really wanted to know more about Yujiro. The girl was quiet for a moment before finally speaking. This is just a scar from the past. Yujiro said quietly. It's visible, unlike Naruto-sama's scars. Naruto's attitude softened a bit when he heard her whimper. Yujiro closed her eyes as memories of the past haunted her. Her past life was something she never wanted to remember. Yujiro blinked when she felt Naruto's hand on top of hers. The boy didn't look at her as he gave her hand a small squeeze. I'm sorry, Naruto sighed. I should know better than anyone not to talk about another person's past unless they want to. I won't force you to talk about it if the memories are that bad. Naruto-sama. I just want to get to know you better, Yujiro. I thought that knowing about your past would be the first step. Naruto grinned. I know so little about you. Where you lived, if you had any family, what your childhood was like. I'm curious, but I won't force you to tell. Just don't keep me waiting too long, okay? Naruto chuckled when he realized how much this sounded like his situation with his teammates. They wanted to know more about his secrets, but he wouldn't talk about it. Naruto smiled when he felt Yuzuru cover his hand with her other one. He could hear the happiness and relief in her voice as she spoke. Thank you. Yuzuru smiled warmly at him. Naruto jumped a bit when she leaned her forehead against the back of his neck. Naruto-sama truly is the kindest master I've ever had. I had never known such kindness until I met you. I promise, I'll tell you, when I'm ready. Naruto-sama deserves to know about my past. Only when you're ready. Naruto grinned. For now, let's stop thinking about the past and future. Let's just relax and enjoy the hot spring. Agreed. Haku smiled, clapping her hands together. Yes. Yuzuru nodded, picking up the cloth and continuing to wash down his back. Naruto sighed as her washing gently massaged the muscles in his back. They didn't need to worry things right now. For now, they could relax and act as if. Whoa! Naruto yelped when Yuzora's hand slipped around his front. What's wrong? What are you doing? I'm almost done with your back. I thought I could wash your front now. Yuzuru responded cheerfully. Screw that, I can do it myself. Naruto blushed. Her hands had gone too low. I only want to help. Yuzuru pouted. I want to take care of Naruto-sama as best I can. Leave him alone, Yuzuru-chan. Haku sighed. Naruto-san just isn't that comfortable with you washing the front of his body, that's all. Naruto sighed when Haku backed him up. He silently thanked her in his mind. He blinked when he heard Haku get out of the water. He blinked again when Haku was suddenly sitting in front of him with another cloth in her hand. She had a mischievous smile on her face. I'll wash his front instead. Haku chirped. Wait. Naruto panicked, trying to keep the girl away and trying to keep a firm grip on the towel around his waist. You don't need to do that. There's no need to feel embarrassed. This is simply a thank you for all you've done. Haku smiled. Just think of me as a boy like you used to. That's impossible, Naruto shouted as his eyes darted to the top of Haku's towel that covered the older girl's breasts. And thinking of you like that wouldn't change how I felt about this. Yuzuru-chan, hold him in place. Okay. Stop. XXXXX. Well, I guess this is where we say goodbye. Naruto and Yuzuru smiled at Zabuza, Utakata, and Haku, all who had came to see the duo off. Mei, Chojuro, Ryoichi and Ao had said their goodbyes before they left Kiri. The four couldn't exactly leave the village. Naruto's two fellow demon containers and Haku had accompanied them to the border to see them off. Good luck, Utakata said as Naruto smiled at him. Hopefully I'll live long enough to see you again this time. I'll see you again soon, Utakata. Naruto assured him. What do you plan to do now? Get stronger. I'll sort through the memories you've given me and find efficient ways to combat Akatsuki. Utakata replied. The Rokubi container looked up as a far-off look crossed his features. And maybe I'll go pay Hotaru a visit. Naruto grinned at him. The Kyuubi container turned to Zabuza while Yuzuru said her goodbyes to the Rokubi container. Zabuza smirked down at the blonde kid. It's only been a few days, but we've been through lots of crazy shit together, haven't we? Zabuza chuckled. To be honest, I was hoping we'd be able to stick together for a little longer. Naruto smiled. I hope the turtle doesn't give you too much trouble. We'll see each other again soon. Zabuza grinned, extending his hand towards the boy. We're allies now, right? Friends, Naruto replied, taking the man's hand. And fellow demon containers. So we are. Zabuza chuckled. Naruto let go of his hand and turned to Haku. The girl gave him a warm smile. I had fun last night. Naruto blushed as Haku giggled. He never thought her to be so shameless. We tell no one of it. Naruto coughed, regaining his cool. He smiled at Haku. I'm really glad we got a second chance to become friends. So am I. Both you and Yuzuru have become people precious to me. Haku smiled. I'm really going to miss you too. I wish I could do more to help. I wish you could come with us. Naruto grinned. We'll see each other soon. I hope so. Haku smiled. Naruto smiled back. Well then, goodbye. Naruto and Haku blinked when a travel pack was pushed between them. Haku blinked again when it was dropped into her hands. Naruto and Haku gaped at Zabuza, who retracted his hand after handing Haku the pack. Utakata and Yuzuru were also giving him clueless looks. Haku glanced at the travel bag and back at Zabuza. This is. All your clothes and belongings are in it. I made sure to pack them before we left the inn. The swordsman stated. Quote. Zabuza sighed, annoyed that she hadn't gotten the message. Haku, you're going to Konoha with them. What? Naruto and Haku shouted in surprise by Zabuza's sudden announcement. Yujiro and Utakata didn't protest, but they looked just as shocked as they did. Zabuza-san, when did you decide this? Yujiro asked. Last night, Zabuza answered shortly. He turned towards Naruto. You two need all the help you can get right now. Haku is strong and I'm sure she'll help you change events so things happen the way you want them to. That's why I'm sending her to Konoha with you. Are you sure? Naruto asked, not believing that he would send Haku away. Positive. Why'd I have to? Haku opened her mouth to protest but was silenced by a hard glare Zabuza gave her. Haku, I would go with him if I could, but I can't. Because I'm the Jinchuriki of the Sanbi, I can't leave unless Mei gives me permission, and I'm sure some Konoha ninja have heard about the Demon of the Mist and about my former missing nin reputation. No one knows about you. You can give Naruto the support he needs. You have the power to help him. Naruto was shocked. This was completely unexpected. Haku looked horrified. The very thought of leaving Zabuza seemed to terrify her. But Zabuza-san, all my life I've served you. I've been your tool to use and help you grow stronger, and I want to continue to. You are my partner, Haku. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me. Zabuza grinned, losing his fierce look and bending down to her level. But if you stayed here you wouldn't get any stronger. You'd have nothing to do. Grow stronger with Naruto. Help him. Hell, teach him some jutsu other than Kage Bunshin or that Rasengan. He gave Naruto an incredulous stare. Seriously, do you know any other techniques besides those? Those techniques always worked best for me, Naruto mumbled sheepishly. Unbelievable, Utakata smirked, shaking his head at the blonde. Haku, you have new friends you have to protect. Zabuza gave the girl a compassionate smile as she started to tear up. It won't be the last time we see each other, but right now we have to go our separate ways. Help Naruto and Yujiro out in Konoha. I want to give you a chance to live the life you deserved. You're not tied to me anymore. Grow stronger. Make me proud. Zabuza-san. Haku broke down in tears as she threw her arms around him. Zabuza embraced her as she cried into his shoulder. You've done so much for me. Haku sobbed. You picked me up when no one else wanted to. You gave me a reason to live. I don't want to leave you. Don't be selfish, Haku. Zabuza grinned, even though he was probably being selfish himself. Go with them. I'm trusting you to help them when I can't, okay? Can you do this for me and for them? Haku slowly nodded into his shoulder, accepting that in order to grow up and help the new people precious to her, this was something she had to do. Thank you for everything you've done for me, Zabuza-san, Haku cried as she managed a small smile for him. Hey, I'm the one that should be thanking you. Zabuza grinned as he released her. Haku walked over to the stunned Naruto and Yujiro. She wiped the tears from her eyes and bowed to the duo. I know this is unexpected, but please forgive my intrusion. I hope we can work well together. Naruto quickly recovered himself and gave the girl a welcoming smile. Don't worry about it, we're glad to have you. Naruto smiled at her. Having Haku-chan with us is very comforting. Yujiro smiled. I'm happy that I'll be able to spend more time with you. Do me a favor and take care of her, alright? Zabuza told Naruto as Haku took her place next to the blonde Jinchuriki and his servant. She doesn't need to be dependent on me anymore. We will, Naruto assured the man. He gave Utakata and Zabuza unsure looks before giving a resigned sigh. But can I ask you both a favor too? The Rokubi and Sanbi containers gave him an odd look. You both know my plans. I've told you guys everything and what I plan to do. So, Naruto paused and took a deep breath before continuing. So if anything happens to me, if I end up dying in the near future, just promise me that you'll take my place and stop. Don't talk like that, Zabuza cut in, grasping the boy's shoulder. He sighed and squatted down to the boy's level so he could look him in the eye. Kid, it took getting my memories back and coming back to my nation in one piece to realize that you're something special. After seeing what you did here, I know that you've got the power to inspire those around you. People believe in you. People respect you. Me, Zabuza shook his head. I don't have the gift. I, nor anyone else, could ever take your place even if they tried. So do me a favor. And promise that you won't die. Okay. Naruto smiled at the man, touched by the faith Zabuza had put in him. Utakata also gave him a smile and a nod that told the boy he had his faith in him as well. He glanced behind him to look at Yujiro and Haku who were both giving him confident smiles. Naruto laughed as he felt determination build up inside him. He turned back towards Zabuza, his expression resolute. He nodded. I promise. Naruto grinned. I won't die. Zabuza grinned back at him. Glad to hear it. Naruto was surprised that it had only taken a week for their business in Wave and in Kiri to be done with. It felt like they had been in Kiri for longer than that, but that was probably because a lot had happened. In reality, they had only been in Wave for 2 days, and in Kiri for a few more. It was hard to believe everything he had wanted to do was accomplished in only a few days. Naruto, Yujiro, and Haku had returned to Wave together to rendezvous with Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura before they headed back to Konoha. Yujiro made herself disappear while Naruto had reintroduced Haku to his team, her presence surprising them all. They had been even more surprised when the blonde told them that Haku would be coming back to Konoha with them. While Naruto had been in Kiri, the bridge had been completed as well. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura had helped Tazuna and the villagers complete it. Naruto was surprised and touched to find that they had still named the bridge after him despite the massive changes that had happened when they had escorted Tazuna. When he had asked him, the bridge builder had simply smiled, saying that the villagers had wanted to name the bridge after the person who helped give them their strength back. Kakashi had asked him about the events that took place in Kurigakure in private, wondering what had brought on Haku's coming back with him. Naruto had simply shrugged and admitted he hadn't expected it either. It had all been Zabuza's idea. He gave Kakashi the short version of what had happened in Kiri. Met with the Mizukage, fought and sealed the Sanbi, Zabuza became the Sanbi's Jinchuriki, found Utakata and got him to join their cause, and now Kurigakure was going to be their secret ally against Madara when he and Akatsuki made their move in a few years. Not only that, but he had gotten Mei to keep an eye on B and the Nibi container in Kumo so that they could lend them their assistance if Akatsuki ever decided to move on them. Kakashi had been relieved and surprised by all the things that had happened in Kiri, but the copy nin was pleased things had turned out the way they had. The mission had been a success. Haku had fit in well enough as Naruto spoke well of her and she made a good impression with his friends. Sasuke respected the girl for the skill Naruto told him about and Sakura seemed to look up to the older girl's calm, mature attitude. Kakashi had welcomed the girl with a masked smile, telling her that they were happy to have her. Of course, all this had already taken place. It was in the past. Naruto knew that only the present mattered. They had left Wave a day ago and had arrived back in Konoha only a few hours ago. Right now, Team 7, plus Haku, were standing in front of the Sandame's desk. Kakashi had just got done telling him everything that had occurred in Wave. So in short, the Sandame said as he folded his hands in front of him. You ran into an A- rank missing ninja from Kurigakure, Zabuza Momochi, who was hired to kill the bridge builder you were escorting. This girl was his partner. Sarutobi glanced at Haku as he said this. But you persuaded them to work with you and assassinate the very man they had been hired by, and then stayed in Wave to help clear out Getu's men and help the villagers finish the bridge, correct? That's right. Kakashi nodded lazily. Beside him, Haku shifted nervously in place. And after everything was taken care of in Wave, Zabuza left this girl in your care before heading back to Kurigakure for his own reasons. Sarutobi finished. Yes, that about sums it up. Kakashi replied, his eyes scanning through the pages of the Ika Ika book he held in his hands. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura stood near the door while Kakashi discussed things with the Hokage. The blonde stared at Haku who looked extremely uncomfortable. He couldn't blame her. She was in a foreign land separated from the man she had stood by since she was a child. And right now, she was standing in front of the leader of the village of Konoha. Naruto wasn't the only one who had gone through a lot in the past week, and he knew it. Of course, the story they were telling the Hokage was missing a lot of things. Naruto and Kakashi had discussed with everyone that they would leave out Naruto's personal mission in Kiri out of their report. They would stick to telling events that only took place in Wave while altering the story a bit to explain why Haku was with them. They weren't really lying, but rather they were withholding part of the truth for now. Besides, it wasn't like the events in Kiri would affect Konoha negatively in any way, so there was really no reason to tell the Hokage about it. Their mission was to escort Tazuna to Wave, so that was the only thing they were obligated to report or discuss. If Hokage-sama would be so kind, I'd like you forge some documents for Haku so she'll be welcomed as a ninja into the village. Kakashi smiled, giving Haku a pat on the shoulder as he said this. I'd like her to start with a clean slate, so leave her association with Zabuza and her actions in the past out if you could. We promised Zabuza that we'd take care of her and we'd like to make her stay here in Konoha as comfortable as possible. Haku played with the hem of robe in an attempt to work off some of her nervousness. She had been in face the Mizukage before, but meeting with the Hokage was different. She didn't have Zabuza with her. The Mist Girl was confident Naruto and his team would do what they could for her, but the Hokage had no reason to trust or help her. Asking him to help a complete stranger was just too much. Sure, I can arrange that. The Hokage smiled, shocking Haku with his response. The man opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a few sheets of paper. All we need to do is. Just like that, you've decided to help me? Haku asked, completely unbelieving that the Hokage had accepted things so quickly. Don't you have any questions? Should you really be so quick to trust me? If she was in his position, she'd be inclined to ask questions. Their cover story hadn't really been the best one. How could he accept her so readily like this? If Kakashi and his team are willing to help you, then why is it so strange for me to do so as well? Sarutobi smiled, giving her that kind, understanding smile of his. Besides, I can tell just by looking at you that you are a kind, honest girl. I'm sure Kakashi and the rest of Team 7 has their reasons, but I don't think I need to press for them. Your past is also something that is irrelevant to me, and if you want to start over anew then I encourage that. I believe Konoha has a lot to offer you if you're willing to stay. The girl just couldn't believe it. Haku bowed towards the aged Kage in gratitude. I am in your debt, Hokage-sama. None of that please. The Hokage grinned. From what Kakashi has told me, you're quite an adept ninja, yes. You are skilled enough to give his entire team a run for their money, and their mission wouldn't have been as successful if you hadn't been there to help. You were the trusted partner of a Jonin and you have a Kekkei Genkai. Another surprise. Kakashi had given the Hokage a brief summary on Haku's skills. Her abilities by themselves were very formidable, and while the team had kept her involvement in the infiltration of Kirie a secret, Kakashi had claimed that she had aided them greatly in Wave and told him of her Kekkei Genkai. He was careful not to mention anything relating to the secret Kurigakure mission. This was all so that she would be accepted as a ninja. If so, then I suppose that I'll assign you as a Chunin on the documents. The Hokage smiled. I'm sure the council won't care if another Chunin is added to our ranks. Haku blinked. Even Team 7 was surprised by Sarutobi's ranking placement. Hey, why does she get to be a Chunin, old man? Naruto asked, pointing at him accusingly. He wouldn't say it out loud, but Naruto was still bothered by the fact that he never got the opportunity to become a Chunin in his past life. Everyone else had become Chunin. Hell, Temari, Kankuro, and Neji all became Jonin. Sure, he was to be elevated from Genin to Hokage, or that was the plan, near the end of the war, but he was still annoyed by the fact he was the only one out of the rookie 9 who had never became a Chunin. He was happy for her, but to have Haku come in and suddenly be given the rank just like that. It bothered him more than he liked. If Haku's skills are what Kakashi says they are, I believe it is an appropriate rank for her. Plus this way, she'll be able to embark on missions without a team, something that I can't provide for her currently. The Hokage replied. He turned back towards Haku. You don't have a problem with this, do you? Haku slowly shook her head. She couldn't express her disbelief and joy. A Chunin, she couldn't believe it. Now, for where you'll be staying, Sarutobi continued, looking back down at the papers in front of him. There are some inns that would be willing to take you in, I'm sure. He was about to list some places where she might stay, but the girl interrupted him. I will be staying with Naruto-san. The Hokage paused and glanced up at the smiling girl before shifting his gaze towards Naruto. The boy had a surprised look on his face while Sasuke and Sakura both gave him suspicious looks. Kakashi just smiled and enjoyed the show. Is there a reason for your asking this, Haku-san? The Hokage asked, wondering why the girl would want to stay with Naruto. I have no problem providing you with a place to stay. If you're short on money and can't pay, there are plenty of kind innkeepers I know who will wait until you save enough money. My guardian left me in Naruto-san's care, and I wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for Naruto-san. Haku smiled. She beamed at the boy. I think he should take responsibility for that, yes. Team 7 will also help look after her, Kakashi added, cutting Naruto off before he opened his mouth to voice his opinion on the matter. While I'm sure Haku is perfectly capable of handling herself, we want to help her get situated in Konoha. I see no problems with that. Sarutobi nodded after pausing for a moment to think it over. He turned towards Naruto. How do you feel about Haku-san staying with you? I'm fine with it, Naruto said after some slight hesitation. The firm look Haku had shot him meant there was no arguing. Dobi, you sure about this? Sasuke whispered. Why would she want to stay with you? I'm sure she has her reasons. Kakashi spoke up, overhearing the Uchiha. Is that fine, Hokage-sama? Very well. As long as it isn't an inconvenience to Naruto, I'll allow it. The man grinned. He motioned Naruto to come forward. The boy stepped up next to Kakashi. Yeah. Naruto, I'm going to make this a mission for you. Sarutobi smiled, surprising the boy. Your mission is to take care of Haku and help her get adjusted and make her feel welcome in the village. This is a long-term mission, so naturally you'll be paid weekly. I expect you to use the money to support both yourself and Haku. Please take care of me. Haku smiled at Naruto, who gave her a small smile in response. I'll try my best, Naruto replied, still a bit uncomfortable with the idea. He already had Yujiro living with him, and he wasn't sure if there was enough room for Haku in his small apartment. Well, I'm glad we have that covered. The Hokage smiled as he took a headband out from another drawer on his desk. He held it out towards Haku. You'll need this. Haku stared at the headband for a moment before taking it and placing it on her forehead. She turned and smiled happily at Team 7. It looks good on you, Sakura said, giving the older girl a smile. Well, I'll submit the papers, so just get yourself settled in the village. Sarutobi smiled at Haku. He turned towards Kakashi. Now, about your payment for the mission. I don't suppose you'll count it as AA rank mission, will you? Kakashi asked, already knowing the answer. Your mission was to escort Tazuna-san to Wave. Anything you did other than that was your own choice. The Hokage smiled mischievously. You'll be paid the same amount you would for AC rank mission. Figures. Kakashi sighed. Naruto was disappointed too, but he didn't voice his complaints. Instead, he was thinking about how he could fit Haku in his small apartment room. XXXXX. So, welcome home, guess. The Jinchuriki said this awkwardly as he opened the front door. Naruto stepped to the side as Haku entered the apartment. Yujiro was already inside waiting for their return. She got up from her position on Naruto's bed and smiled at the duo in greeting. Haku looked around the relatively small apartment with a look of mild interest, gently placing her bag down beside her. Naruto stood beside the mist girl, scratching the back of his head nervously. Look, I know it's not much, but I hope things will be comfortable for you here. Haku didn't respond. After a few moments of silence, she turned her head and smiled at Naruto. Funny, I expected you to be more of a messy person than this. Haku smiled. It's cleaner than I thought it would be. I am messy, Naruto replied, ignoring her backhanded comment. He jabbed his thumb at Yujiro. I have her to thank for that. You do so much for him, don't you? Haku said, giving the fox girl a smile. I do everything I can to help Naruto-sama, Yujiro asserted. But Haku-chan, why are you here? I thought you'd be busy finding a place to stay. Naruto-san has given me permission to stay here with you too. Haku said, smiling gratefully at the blonde who rolled his eyes in response. Something tells me that I had no choice in the matter. Oh, Yujiro clapped her hands together happily when Haku told her the news. Naruto-sama is letting Haku-chan stay here with us. That's wonderful. Now we'll be roommates and can talk anytime we want. Naruto smiled a bit at Yuzura's reaction to this. He figured she'd be excited since she'd have someone to spend time with now when he was out. She and Haku already got along splendidly, so this might actually turn out to be a good thing. Of course, the main problem still had to be addressed. I'm fine with you staying here and all, but I don't know where you could sleep. Naruto muttered as he glanced around the room. His 3-room apartment didn't have a lot of space, and fitting them all in his bedroom might be a little difficult. Haku didn't respond. Instead, she walked into the kitchen with an expressionless look on her face. Naruto, curious as to what she was thinking, followed after her. Yujiro also joined them in the kitchen. The blonde and fox girl were a little confused when they found Haku lightly knocking on the wall of his kitchen with her fist. The mist girl turned and gave Naruto a questioning look. This apartment building has more rooms, yes? Haku asked. Well, yeah, but no one else lives here but me. Naruto answered. The other rooms are way too worn out and dirty. But there is another room on the other side of this wall, right? Yes, but what does that have to do with? Naruto's eyes widened when Haku raised her foot and smashed it into the wall in front of her. Due to the apartment's low state of condition, the wall easily broke away and collapsed to reveal a room on the other side. What the hell are you doing? Naruto shouted, wondering what had possessed the girl to do something like that. The fox girl standing next to him arched her eyebrows in mild surprise. Haku simply smiled and gestured to the empty room with her hand. This will be my room. Haku smiled. Problem solved. Naruto's jaw dropped at how quickly she had come up with a solution. Yujiro simply nodded and turned to her master. Will that be all right, Naruto-sama? Yujiro asked. The girls were surprised when the boy sank to his knees and collapsed to the ground. Yujiro quickly bent down and tried to help him. Her expression was one of worry. Naruto-sama, are you okay? Yujiro panicked. Haku just giggled as an amused smile made its way to her face. She had a fair idea as to why the blonde was so depressed all of a sudden. You're mad that you never thought to do this yourself, aren't you? Haku giggled. I've been living here my whole life and I never thought to connect the rooms together. I had all the space I wanted and I only thought I had one room to use, Naruto moaned pathetically from the floor. Yujiro blinked in confusion while Haku continued to laugh. He couldn't believe her never thought of it. The landlord had long since abandoned the apartment and left Naruto to fend for himself, so nobody would have cared if he had made any renovations. His cramped apartment could have become his mansion if he had been a little smarter. Boy, did he feel stupid right now. I'll make you something to eat. Yujiro smiled, trying to cheer up the boy. Will ramen do? A small nod from Naruto was all she needed. She made her way to the pantry to grab some of the good stuff and the boy slowly picked himself up. Why do you live in such a place? Haku asked him. Even if you had more rooms to use, it is still a very run-down apartment. Why not move someplace else? Naruto's exasperated side told her that wasn't something she should have asked. I would, but innkeeper would let me stay at their place even if I was paying double for a rent. Naruto sighed. His expression turned melancholy. Because everyone sees me as a monster, they don't like to deal with me unless they have to. When I go out to different places, most people just chase me away. I was just lucky enough to have the old man give me a place like this to stay. No one bothers me here. Much. I see. Haku nodded, feeling a little guilty for asking something like that. She smiled as she decided to change the subject. Your Hokage is a very kind person to look after you the way he does. She adjusted the headband on her head. He accepted me so quickly with no questions asked. He is truly a kind man. Yeah, Naruto nodded, his eyes shooting up to look at the forehead protector. You sure you're okay with this though? What do you mean? Well, I know that coming to Konoha itself was unexpected and I wouldn't have stopped you if you wanted to leave. Naruto paused when Haku gave him a fixed look before continuing. But since you're a ninja of Konoha, you're tied to the village now. And you're bothered by this? Haku asked, arching an eyebrow at him. No, I just feel like you haven't been given a choice in anything that's happened. I don't want you to feel like you're being dragged along or anything like that. Naruto said uneasily. Now you can't leave since you'd be marked as a missing ninja. You sound so silly, Naruto-san. Huh. It's just that you make it sound like I was planning on leaving here. The thought never crossed my mind. Haku replied with light laughter. Recent events have been unexpected, but I'm very happy with how things turned out. Zabuza-san sent me with you for a reason, you know. And truth is, I'm actually glad I got a chance to come to Konoha with you. Really? It's just, I never thought I'd get a chance to become a ninja for a village. The life Zabuza-san and I led made me believe that I would never be a part of a village. Haku smiled, but when Kakashi asked the Hokage to make me a ninja, and then to have him agree to it, I was ecstatic. I am excited to know that I'm a Konoha ninja now. Haku. So now that I'm here to stay, I'm happy that I'll have more time to spend with my new friends. Haku smiled warmly at him. I do my best to help you as a fellow ninja of Konoha. Naruto grinned back at her, his guilty conscience assuaged by her words. She truly did look excited. He was a little surprised at how easily she was taking things, but he wasn't complained. Well, I'll try to keep you entertained. Naruto grinned. And thanks for the help. It's what friends do, yes. Haku smiled back at him. The two of them laughed. Anyo, Naruto-sama. The two Konoha ninja stopped laughing and looked at Yujiro who had an apologetic look on her face. I'm sorry, it appears we're out of ramen. The fox girl reported sadly. That's okay, Naruto said happily, startling Yujiro with his suddenly upbeat demeanor. He turned towards Haku. Since Haku just became a ninja of Konoha, we're going to Ichiraku's to celebrate. Ichiraku's? Haku wondered, the name being unknown to her. The best ramen you'll have in your life is made there. Naruto grinned. I'll treat both of you tonight. Me too, Yujiro asked, wondering why she was being included. Of course, Naruto grinned at the fox girl. You helped me a lot in Kiri and in making that seal, Yuzura. Just think of this as a reward for all your help. Oh, thank you, Naruto-sama. Yuzura smiled gratefully at her master. I will gladly accept this offer. Good, Naruto smiled. His look turned serious, but there's also some things we need to discuss as well. The two girls blinked at him curiously. Naruto sighed and narrowed his eyes as he thought back to the past. The Chunin exams were only a few weeks away, so they needed to prepare accordingly. He had probably 3 weeks to prepare. He had to get stronger if he had any hopes of taking down Orochimaru and Kabuto when they showed up. XXXXX. Naruto, jump. The blonde did as Sasuke's voice commanded and jumped just as a group of shuriken flew under him and towards the target he had tried to keep distracted. Good, but still not enough. Kakashi chuckled as he easily avoided the projectiles. He noticed a Naruto clone coming at him from the left. The copy nin sighed, expecting a little more than a flanking attempt from his students. He moved to block the clone's punch. Kakashi's eyes widened when the clone poofed out of existence to reveal Sakura, who had been following behind it and hid herself with its body. She was already in mid-punch, and Kakashi was able to jump away in time before her fist could collide with his face. Sasuke, now. The copy nin grunted and formed a few hand signs. A hail of kunai came from above. All the kunai hit their mark, though Kakashi poofed into a log after the rain had ended. Sasuke landed beside the log and proceeded to pick up his kunai. A few Naruto clones showed up to help him retrieve his weapons. Replacement jutsus are annoying, Sasuke muttered as he stashed the kunai back in his pocket and scanned the area for his sensei. From his position on the tree he was standing on, Kakashi complimented his student's skill. Naruto's plan for a new training regime helped the team improve extremely quickly. Teamwork was often the key to winning most battles, and Team 7 was already showing plenty of it. Kakashi was seriously surprised how far his team had come in this life when he compared it to the past. Hell, there was no comparison. Team 7 worked like a well-oiled machine, always keeping him on the move and always made sure to keep him on his toes. Since he had switched from regular drills to full-on spars with his entire team, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke were forced to work together and improve their teamwork. Each of them trusted the other with his or her life, and their teamwork helped each of them improve their skills individually. Naruto was slowly becoming more strategic when it came to using his clones. Sakura had given him a whole list of different ways to use his clones and he utilized every one of them. Now, Kakashi always expected a clone to pop out when he least expected. Seriously, he was amazed by how well Naruto hid the things. Sakura herself had improved with her chakra control and was able to amplify her strength even more. Kakashi could no longer just block her attacks. Those he did block always left his limbs sore afterwards, and he had already gotten 2 fingers broken because he had been careless a few times. Sasuke was the one who showed the most change compared to his past self. The boy completely trusted his teammates. When Naruto or Sakura gave him advice or an order, he followed it without question, and they did the same. The boy laughed and smiled more often too, further surprising Kakashi. The boy had lost a lot of arrogance. He used to have and gloated about his Uchiha heritage a lot less. He was slowly starting to lose the Avenger persona Kakashi thought Sasuke would always have. I made so many mistakes with this team, Kakashi thought sadly as he remembered the past. He smiled underneath his mask. I'm glad I got a second chance to make things right. The amount of faith and strength the members of Team 7 had made him a proud sensei. Found him. Kakashi jumped from the tree just as a Naruto clone dropped down from above. The copy nin landed on the ground with a soft thud. Sasuke, go for it, the clone shouted. Chidori. Kakashi was able to avoid the attack just in time. The Jonin grabbed the boy's collar as he ran past and slammed him into the ground, the lightning chakra in his hand disappearing as he met the ground. Not bad, Kakashi complimented, smiling down at his grumbling student. Sasuke may have gotten more humble, but he still didn't like it when he lost. But this is my win. Kakashi arched an eyebrow when the Uchiha smirked. Do you really think so, sensei? Sasuke chuckled. Kakashi sighed and brought his leg upward. His foot connected with the side of a surprised Naruto's face, his Rasengan disappearing as the kick sent him flying across the training ground. Kakashi smiled underneath his mask as he helped Sasuke off the ground. Yes, I do believe it's my win again. Kakashi smiled, ruffling his student's hair affectionately. Sasuke grumbled but didn't pull away. I thought we had you that time. Naruto whined as Sakura rushed over to help him up. Naruto cried out as he touched his cheek. Damn it, that's gonna swell up. Hold still, Sakura chided as she gently touched her fingers to Naruto's cheek and mended it with her healing. There, it should be fine now. Thanks, Sakura. Naruto gave the girl a grateful smile. You alright? Sasuke asked as he jogged over to his teammates. I'm fine, Naruto scoffed, waving his friend off. He noticed something red on the Uchiha's chin. You could use some healing yourself though. Ah, damn, Sakura, could you? Just give me a minute, Sakura said, placing her hand over the boy's chin. A green glow emanated from her hand as she healed the cut on his jaw. Kakashi approached his team, watching their exchange with a smile. He pulled out the new issue of Ika Ika, something he could no longer read during training since his students never gave him a chance to take a break. You all did very well today. Kakashi smiled at all of them proudly. I think you all will do just fine during the Chunin exams. Do you really think we're ready, Sensei? Sakura asked, still a little unsure of his decision to sign them up.